Chapter 84. P.S. Thank you everyone, you are so awesome. In just a little more than an hour, you have added a few hundred votes. It seems that you guys are usually reserved and do not have the habit of voting, haha. There is one more update tonight. Please continue to vote. There are many great gods on the recommendation list, and it changes rapidly. The more votes you have, the more stable your position will be. However, as soon as Qin Wushuang thought about it, he understood. Certainly, the martial arts student who could be ranked number 1 in the country would not be ordinary. According to Tong Yao's information, this martial arts student exam would determine whether or not the Baiyu could become an upper-level subordinate country. Of course, the royal family of the Baiyu would not spare any effort. For your information, becoming an upper-level subordinate country meant a change in their international status. It also meant a change in their relationship with the neighboring countries. For example, the Great Wu country, which bordered the Baiyu country, was also a middle-level subordinate country. They had always fought openly and secretly with the Baiyu. However, once one of them became an upper-level subordinate country, it meant that the stalemate and balance between the two sides would be broken. And once the number 1 martial arts student received the spiritual connection, it would be even more extraordinary. Therefore, such a generous reward was very reasonable and worth it. Each martial arts student was calculating inwardly. Their expectations for this exam had also increased greatly. With such generous rewards, it would be impossible to not be tempted. Suddenly, one of the martial arts students asked, "Then what if the number 1 person for the team and the number 1 person for the individual are the same? How should we calculate this debt?" Instantly, many martial arts students were reminded by his word. Yes, if that's the case, how should they calculate this debt? Of course, the royal family had considered this problem. If the two are the same person, the two rewards will be added together, and the interest will increase. Then this is an interesting problem. King Marquis, wouldn't it be a mess? You are so stubborn. How could it be a mess? The royal family gave 2 rewards, and I received 1. Could it be that the second one would not benefit my family? Don't worry about this. If you can win the double championship, you will be a king, and your father will be a marquis. Wouldn't that be nice? That martial arts student laughed. So it can be like this. However, that wouldn't be good either. I was conferred the title of king, and my father was conferred the title of marquis. Since his rank is lower than mine, wouldn't he have to bow when he sees me? This is not good. If I really become the double champion, my father will still have to give me the title of king. I'll just give him the title of marquis. Sigh, I like to keep a low profile and don't like to be in the limelight. Come on. How can you be a double champion with that little quality of yours? I think you should give up on the title of marquis as soon as possible. Jealous? You're obviously jealous. I'm not going to argue with you. Let's see whose results are better. While the group of people were discussing, a little girl ran towards them. She had a delicate face that looked like it was carved out of jade. She walked up to Qin Wushuang and asked in a coquettish voice, "Are you big brother Qin Wushuang?" Qin Wushuang was stunned. He jumped off his horse and said, "It's me. Little sister, do you know me? Someone asked me to give this to you." The little girl extended her chubby little hand and handed over a small bamboo tube. Qin Wushuang took it and immediately knew there was a slip of paper inside. Just when he was about to say something, the little girl had already skipped away. "Qin Wushuang, you are quite famous. When you arrived at the Redwood Royal City, someone sent you things." Yun Qingyan came up from her horse and teased him. "What's inside?" Qin Wushuang took out the slip of paper. On it was written, "Pine Wind Restaurant, 6th floor, Coin Room, waiting for you to have lunch together." The handwriting was graceful, and the 2 words, Tong Yao, were written at the bottom. Qin Wushuang squeezed the paper into pieces. Inwardly, he thought that Tong Yao had said that her family made a living by selling information. Indeed, this information business was powerful. He had just entered the city and she already knew? Then, he thought about it again and felt relieved. There were 80 or 90 martial arts students in South Cloud State. Perhaps she had already investigated him on the way. Someone asked me to have lunch together. Qin Wushuang said apologetically, since we are already at the Redwood Royal City, I believe that everyone has relatives and friends at the Redwood Martial Arts Academy. I am alone, so everyone can leave now. Let's meet up again when it's time. Everyone agreed with this idea. Most of these upper-level martial arts students had relatives who were studying at the Redwood Martial Arts Academy. And in the future, they would also enter the Redwood Martial Arts Academy. Thus, he must go to the Redwood Martial Arts Academy. The Pine Wind Restaurant was a famous restaurant in the Redwood Royal City. Qin Wushuang asked a random person and easily found the location of the Pine Wind Restaurant. After he had deposited the horse, he walked up to the 6th floor directly. The location of the Kuan room was extremely elegant. It also faced the street. You are here. Tong Yao had been waiting in the room for a long time. She let Qin Wushuang in and closed the door. She explained, I should have gone to pick you up myself. But your casual Miss Yun knows me. Qin Wushuang waved his hand. No need to explain, I understand. Why are you alone? Where is your little brother? He did not come. Tong Yao wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she seemed to think it was better to be honest. She stammered, Young Master Qin, my little brother is a bit headstrong. Qin Wushuang observed her words and body language. When he saw Tong Yao's stammering appearance, he guessed the situation. Inwardly, he thought that she was indeed a dutiful sister. Not only did she help her little brother in secret, she also took care of his pride. This way, your little brother does not know about this? Tong Yao's face blushed slightly as she shook her head. He doesn't know. Then how should I do it? If the person involved did not know, then it would be even more difficult. Thus, this matter is somewhat difficult. I am afraid that young Master Qin will need to spend more effort to help him in secret without leaving any traces. Let him be kept in the dark from beginning to end. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang found it funny. He thought that this cheating method was quite unique. Helping someone to cheat and not letting the person receiving the benefit know. However, until now I have no idea about the rules of the exam. I have no idea how to help your little brother. If Miss Tong knows the details of the rules, why don't you tell me? Tong Yao nodded. I invited young Master Qin here for 2 reasons. First, to welcome you, and second, to discuss the rules. Young Master Qin, before the start of the exam, these rules are kept secret. I collected them through different channels, and they are 100% reliable. I only hope that young Master Qin can keep your mouth shut. Please speak. Okay, according to the rules, more than 2,000 martial arts students from the Bayou country will be numbered 1 by 1. Each martial arts student will have a unique number and will not be repeated. Then, the Zhen Wu Holy Place will organize the martial arts students from different places into the same team according to their origin. There are more than 2,000 upper-level martial arts students in the Bayou country. They will be divided into 50 teams. Each team will have about 45 to 50 people. This way, it will ensure that all martial arts students from different counties will be separated. Basically, it will prevent martial arts students from the same place from forming cliques for personal gain. 50 teams. Qin Wushuang frowned. How can I guarantee that your little brother will be in the same team as me? If we are not in the same team, the placement will be different, right? Please don't worry about the grouping. When your numbers come out, I have a way to put you in the same group, Tong Yao said with a confident tone. Tong Yao paused for a moment and suddenly asked, The rewards for this exam are very generous. What are your goals? Regardless of the rewards, since I am participating, of course I must strive for a good result. When Tong Yao heard these words, her expression became slightly serious. She lowered her head and bit her lips lightly as if she was thinking about something. Finally, she nodded. With your strength, it's right to strive for number one. I can't block young Master Qin's future because of my selfishness. How about this, when the numbers come out and the groups have finished, I will contact you again and tell you what to do. When the groups come out, aren't we going to the exam site? I have a way to pass the message to you, trust me. Tong Yao looked determined. Then, she smiled. Okay, now that we are done talking about personal matters, I am also hungry. Young Master Qin, please open your stomach and try the food from Prince Akaji's chefs. When Qin Wushuang saw that she was hesitating, he knew that this matter would be troublesome. At the moment, he did not ask any more and did not act courteous. He drained the cup and drank to his heart's content. Martial arts student exam. Qin Wushuang thought inwardly that it seemed that the organization for this exam was strict enough. Basically, they had eliminated all the possibility of cheating. However, this Tong Yao could still find a loophole. It seemed that the family behind this Tong Yao was not ordinary. Chapter 85. The third update is a bit late, sorry. There were more than 600 upper-level martial arts students from the 8 states of the Redwood Royal City. It was an enormous number. Every single one of them was considered one of the best in their respective provinces and counties. However, when they arrived at the Redwood Royal City, the little advantage they had in their own territory had disappeared. Here, everyone was a proud son of the gods and stood out from the crowd. The King of Heaven stage was the biggest martial arts arena in the Redwood Royal City. It was also one of the few martial arts arenas in the Bayou country. Now, more than 600 martial arts students from the Redwood Royal City had gathered together. Their registration form had already been sent to the Royal City from each state. And now, it was time for the representative of the Zhen Wu Holy Place to officially announce the rules. After the announcement of the rules, all martial arts students would head to the exam site. They would gather with the parasol trees from the other 3 royal cities at the border of the exam site. Layers upon layers of gathering, all the martial arts students from all over the country had gathered together. Then, they started to distribute their numbers and inform them of which team they would be in, the areas they would be participating in the exam, and so on. Everyone, you are all from different states. As for the details, I believe that before you set off, the local governments of the various prefectures and prefectures have already explained them. Am I right? The representative of the Zhen Wu Holy Place spoke clearly. Yes. All the parasol trees responded. That representative raised both of his hands and pressed them down. He motioned for everyone to be quiet and listen to him. When you entered the city, I believe that you all saw the contents on the bulletin board. Those rewards are real. Tell me, are you tempted? Yes. A strong response. Do you want to be bestowed with the title of king or marquis? Yes. An even crazier response. Do you want your family to reach the sky because of the results of this exam? Yes. A hysterical response. That representative of the Zhen Wu Holy Place wanted such atmosphere. Especially for the young people, only extreme emotions and encouragement could make the blood of these young people boil and stimulate their greatest potential. It would allow them to perform at their best in the exam. He knew that most of the martial arts students here were destined to serve as background. Most of them would be the green leaves or even cannon fodder. Most of them would not succeed and would be eliminated in the end. Luck only belonged to those few people. However, it was not important. More importantly, they provided such an opportunity. Even if it was a 1 in 10,000 chance, this group of martial arts students would rush forward without hesitation. Moreover, the probability of this happening was much higher than 1 in 10,000. Waving his arms, he continued to encourage, "Good. From your eyes, I can see the vigor and courage that youths should have. If you really want to obtain all of this, then bring out your best performance. Just think about it, when you return to your family with good results and rewards from the royal family, what kind of glory would that be? How glorious would it be to bring honor to their ancestors? Remember, this is a trial for both fame and fortune. Roar. The blood of the martial arts students boiled. Each of them rubbed their palms and wished they could rush to the exam site immediately. All right, the wonderful blueprint is already in front of you. It's up to you to realize it. Next, I will announce the specific rules. Please prick up your ears and listen carefully. I will only say this once. All the martial arts students listened attentively and did not dare to miss a single word. In total, there are 2,500 martial arts students from the Bayou country that signed up. Each martial arts student will have a number that belongs to you. These numbers are unique and will not be repeated. And your numbers are arranged by the Zhen Wu Holy Place according to different regions and places of origin. Each group of 50 people. A total of 50 group. To prevent martial arts students from the same place from forming cliques for personal gain, it is impossible for martial arts students from the same place to be in the same group. Your numbers and groups will only be announced when you arrive at the outer area of the exam site. This eliminates any possibility of cheating in advance. Qin Wushuang nodded inwardly. Indeed, it matched the information given by Tong Yao. It seemed that Tong Yao was indeed well informed and had a lot of power. That person in charge said again, "That's all the information I can give you. The specific exam content and rules, as well as the grading rules, will only be announced before the exam. For this exam, the royal family of the Bayou country is extremely important. They will not allow any cheating for personal gain. Thus, all confidentiality is in place. Now, everyone pack your bags and get ready to depart." This time, the martial arts students would not be taking the initiative to depart. Instead, they would be led by the representative of the Zhen Wu Holy Place. They would not be allowed to act on their own. Qin Wushuang could not help but feel somewhat doubtful. Up to this point, he did not even know who Tong Yao's little brother was. However, since Tong Yao was full of confidence, he believed that with her meticulous personality, there would be more. They followed the group and departed in a grandiose manner. The exam site was a few thousand miles away from the Redwood Royal City. They left in the morning and rested at night. They only arrived at noon on the third day. Among the continuous mountain range, there were surging streams that weaved between the lofty mountains and lofty ridges. The winding streams made this place appear full of mystery. At the foot of the mountain there was an empty space. All the parasol trees from the 4 royal territories had arrived. For this exam, because there was competition between the 4 royal territories and the competition for the number 1 team, the martial arts students from different territories were not friendly with each other. Rolling their eyes at each other was considered friendly. Some had already started to insult and provoke each other. If it weren't for the elite warriors from the Zhen Wu Holy Place, most likely these martial arts students would have already started a chaotic fight. Despite this fact, they were already at daggers drawn. Strangely, although the elite warriors from the Zhen Wu Holy Place saw the conflict between the martial arts students, they did not go to stop it. Instead, they looked at them with a smile and seemed to be encouraging them. This was competition. It would be nice to let everyone feel the competitive atmosphere. After a long commotion, the representatives of the Zhen Wu Holy Place from the 4 royal territories finally stood up and stopped the martial arts students from their territories. They asked them to quiet down and listen to the honored warriors from the Zhen Wu Holy Place. In the Bayou country, the highest leader of the Zhen Wu Holy Place was the martial saint. Under the martial saint, there were 4 honored warriors. Then, there were the elders. When they heard the appearance of the legendary, honored warriors, instantly, the martial arts students fell into silence. A purple-robed elder walked to the front leisurely and glanced across the entire scene with his sharp eyes. With this glance, most of the martial arts students felt a wave of coldness and drew a breath of cold air. Such a powerful aura! Kids, this sobbing sky mountain range will be your exam site. Now, I will announce the detailed rules of the competition. There will be a total of 50 teams. Each team will have 50 people. Each person will have an individual number. The 50 people in the same team will be thrown into the same exam site. Each team will have an individual area. In total, there will be 50 areas. He paused for a moment to let the martial arts students digest these rules. After a moment, that honored warrior continued to speak. Remember, just because you are in the same team, it does not mean you are allies. On the contrary, 50 people in the same team, you are all enemies. In the same team, they were not allies but enemies? The martial arts students were confused and looked at the honored warrior with confusion. Why do you say it this way? It's because we will throw 50 jade plates with the same number as you in your exam site. Each plate will correspond to your number. Your trial mission is to obtain these tokens and then obtain points. Remember, each jade plate will give you different points. If you get the plate with the same number as you will get 30 points. If you get the plate with the same number as you will get 20 points. If you get the plate with the same ending number as you will get 5 points. The other plates will only give you 2 points. It was easy to understand that the plates had the same number as you. The same ending number was also not hard to understand. For example, if the number was 1, then from 1 to 50, the ones with the same ending number would be number 11, 21, 31, and 41. In other words, among the 50 team members, there were 4 people with the same ending number as you. Everyone was the same, without exception. However, what was the meaning of the corresponding jade plate? Was it not the one with the same number as you? Apparently, that honored warrior knew where everyone's confusion lay as he explained patiently. The so-called corresponding jade plate is easy to understand. Number 1 to 50. Number 1 corresponds to number 50, number 2 corresponds to number 49, and so on. Overall, the two numbers add up to 51. That person corresponds to you. Besides, the person with the same number as you will never have the same ending number as you. Thus, everyone will have a fair chance. Finally, the martial arts students realized the light and started to calculate inwardly. This way, among the 50 people, the jade plate with their number would get the highest points. Next would be the person with the corresponding number. Then, it would be the 4 with the same ending number. As for the other jade plates, they were the cheapest and worthless. However, for sure, the worthless jade plate in your eyes would need it or someone with the same ending number. This way, it would be extremely complicated to fight and scheme against each other. I must get more jade plates. The most important thing is to protect my own plate, and then get the one with the corresponding number. The martial arts students calculated inwardly. That honored warrior pressed his palm down and motioned everyone to be quiet. He had not finished speaking. As Qin Wushuang pondered, he thought that indeed, this exam method was unique and unpredictable, not to mention cheating. He just did not know whether that Tong Yao's little brother's number would correspond to his, or end with the same ending number. If that was the case, it would not be easy to take away his jade plate. The third watch came a little late, haha. I highly recommend the novel Immortal Bell by the talented author Zi Chai Hen. It is absolutely wonderful. Don't laugh at me for being weak, my concubines are all nascent soul concubines. Don't look at me for being small, my bed-warming maid is also a golden core jade immortal. Why would a little chi refining stage cultivator be favored by such a peerless fairy? A little rookie in the cultivation world had enjoyed the luck with women that even the immortal emperor could only dream of. Book ID equals 1713450, book name equals Immortal Bell. Chapter 86. Today, I made the setting and outline, so I am a bit late. Sorry. Brothers, please forgive me. The votes are not as fierce as yesterday, let's do our best. Qin Wushuang had already paid attention to this honored warrior when he had appeared. Certainly, this honored warrior's strength and aura were above Shimenyu. Although they were both at stage 9 of the genuine force, naturally there were differences among them. Qin Wushuang knew that if he were to fight against Shimenyu, he would have at least 70 to 80% chance of winning. And for this honored warrior, Qin Wushuang would only have 20 to 30% chance of winning. Since the aura and temperament were different, their internal strength would also be different. Yet, he wondered, what kind of demonic level would the martial saint above the honored warrior be? Inwardly, Qin Wushuang had a desire to broaden his horizons. He thought that if he could reach the perfect stage of the Sun Force and the 9 Sun's palms, he would be able to defeat this honored warrior. However, what about the martial saint? He did not have any confidence. It seemed that catching up to his former level was only an initial goal. The road ahead was long and he still needed to search. That honored warrior opened his mouth again. Each of you will wear the same outfit and the same mask. At the exam site, besides your serial number, your birthplace, name, age, and appearance will be hidden. However, your serial number will be embroidered on your exam robe. Every one of you must wear this robe throughout the entire trial. In other words, your serial number must be displayed. You can hide, but you must make sure to wear the exam robe. Make sure that when someone discovers your body, they will also see your serial number. The martial arts students nodded and understood this layer of meaning. You can hide, but you cannot let your serial number leave the exam robe. When someone discovers you, they must know your serial number immediately. If you are exposed, your serial number must be exposed. As for the serial number, you have 50 teams in total. Each team will have 50 members. Each team will have serial numbers from 1 to 50. And each team member will also have serial numbers from 1 to 50. Understand? Understood. Okay, I believe that each of you has a little plan. Your main task for this exam is to find the robe with your serial number. It was worth 30 points. Then, there was the jade token that corresponded to him, which was worth 20 points. Next were the 4 coins with the same ending number, which were worth 5 points. Apart from these 6, the other 44 were only worth 2 points. In theory, the highest score a team could get was 158 points. Of course, this was basically impossible. After all, it's not realistic for a single person to monopolize all the jade tokens. All the martial arts students nodded. Get all the jade plates. That was too exaggerated. It was impossible. The most important thing was to obtain the one he had and work hard to obtain the corresponding one. Then, for those with the same mantissa, one would count as one. Conservatively speaking, if he could get 60 points, it would be a very ideal result. The Venerable One smiled, waved his hand, and said, "The duration of this trial is 1 month. During this 1 month, you can use any method, any means to obtain those jade plates. In order to encourage everyone to do their best, our trial is not limited to a single team. If you meet certain conditions, you can even cross regions and join other teams for training." The martial arts students were stunned. They could cross regions? Wouldn't that be a mess? Don't be hasty, let me finish. It doesn't mean that you can cross regions whenever you want. There are requirements to cross regions. You must at least acquire 80 jade plates in your team. Only then, you are qualified to apply to cross the team. At the edge of the exam site, there will be an emissary from the Zhen Wu holy place in charge of receiving you. After verification, if you have acquired more than 80 points, you will be sent to another exam site randomly. You will fight for the jade plates from other sites. After a pause, that Venerable One said again, "This is an encouragement to your limit. In a team, even if you collect all 50 jade plates, the highest you can get is 158 points. However, if you cross regions, perhaps you will get more than this after collecting 20 plates. Why do I say this? Because after crossing regions, there will still be a jade plate with the same number as you, a jade plate with the same ending number as you, and 4 jade plates with the same ending number. Regardless of whether you are in your own area or crossing regions, the points of these jade plates will never change. For example, after the number 1 member of your first team has acquired the qualification to cross regions, he will enter the second team area for training. If he can acquire the number 1 jade plate from the second team area, it will also be worth 30 points. And so on. Do you guys understand this explanation? All the martial arts students nodded. They were all elites from different places. Thus, they could easily digest this little rule. To put it simply, if a martial arts student acquired 80 points in their own area, the other jade plates would not be worth much. When they crossed regions and entered other areas, there would also be jade plates with numbers from 1 to 50. As long as they acquired the same jade plate with the same number as them, the value would be the same as the one from their own area. This would ensure that the elite warriors could easily earn points. The elite warriors would be even more powerful. To ordinary martial arts students, 80 points might be difficult. However, to elite warriors it would not be difficult. The one with the same number was worth 30 points, and the one with the same ending number was worth 20 points. If they could collect all 6 plates, they would have 70 points. As for the rest, they only needed to acquire 5 random plates, and they would be qualified to cross regions. Once they crossed regions, there would be jade plates with high points waiting to be acquired. If this cycle continued, the points would be accumulated at an extraordinary speed. Everyone, pay attention. There is no limit to crossing regions. If you have enough strength, you can get 80 points from the first team area. Then, when you get 80 points from the next area, you can continue to cross regions. This cycle will continue until the 1-month exam is over. That honored warrior pushed forward layer by layer and revealed the rules bit by bit. It kept stimulating the martial arts students' nerve. The content of this exam sounded extremely exciting. Now they could repeat it endlessly. This made them feel even more excited. This way, they would not only face the other 49 members from their own area. Most likely, they would also face the invasion of elite warriors from other areas. After Qin Wushuang had heard these words, suddenly, he had an idea. Instantly, he understood why Tong Yao had hesitated to speak and asked him about his ambitions for this exam. It turned out that Tong Yao already knew that they could cross regions. Once Qin Wushuang crossed regions, it would be difficult for him to take care of her little brother. So this was what Tong Yao meant when she said, "I cannot block young Master Qin's future because of my own selfishness." Finally, Qin Wushuang understood. In this exam, there will be competition between the 4 royal territories, and competition between individuals. Apparently, each of our groups can only ensure that you do not come from the same state. However, we cannot guarantee that you do not come from the same territory. In our Bayou country, there are only 4 royal territories. However, there are 50 members in each team. Thus, for sure, you will come from the same territory in the same team. In the competition between groups and individuals, we encourage individuals to compete. In other words, if your number comes from the same territory, you can also take it without mercy. Of course, our principle is to wear the same exam robe and mask. In principle, your identity will not be exposed. However, during the exam, we cannot guarantee that you will not expose each other. Thus, we encourage individuals to compete. After all, if you have a high individual score, the total score of the royal territory you represent will also be high. We will only take the top 30 from each territory to advance. Only the top 30 from each territory will advance. In the competition between the royal territories, only the top 30 will advance. The one with the highest total score among the top 30 will be the group champion of this exam. Each territory had more than 600 participating martial arts students. Only the top 30 would advance. The probability of qualifying was 1 out of 20. This competition was not an ordinary kind of competition. These are all the rules of the exam. Now, all martial arts students, follow the formation and come up one by one to take your exam robe and mask. Your number is on the exam robe. After you get the number, you will know which team you are in. Then, you will be thrown into your exam area. You will be thrown in for 2 hours. During these 2 hours, you will be thrown in first. You must find a place to wait for the 2 hours to pass before you can start. During the throwing time, no one is allowed to move ahead. Or else, you will be disqualified. The martial arts students followed the prescribed order and went up one by one. The exam robe was sealed and could not be opened for now. Thus, the martial arts students did not know their number. It also prevented the possibility of exposing their number in advance. When it was Qin Wushuang's turn, a yellow-faced elder was in charge of giving him the exam robe. He led Qin Wushuang to the exam area with an expressionless face. "Little brother from the Tong family is number 19. A voice as low as a mosquito entered Qin Wushuang's ears. Qin Wushuang was stunned. However, that elder floated forward without any expression. After a moment, he brought Qin Wushuang to the edge of the exam area. "It's here. Each team only has 50 miles of activity area. Before you have collected 80 points, you are not allowed to leave this area. Or else you will be disqualified." "Yes." Qin Wushuang answered and opened his exam robe. He looked at the number. Number 6. It did not correspond to number 19, and it had a different ending number. It seemed that his worries were unnecessary. Qin Wushuang could not help but feel impressed. Indeed, Tong Yao's methods were extraordinary. Push a book. Super Martial Arts, author, Yi Wushu. Introduction. Xing Wuji had accidentally entered a strange space after opening the extreme beast territory. He had stimulated the 5 elemental qi inside his body and borrowed a martial technique called the rushing breath fist. His training speed was extremely fast. He continued to merge martial techniques to increase his strength. Because he had been humiliated and had a lowly status, he had always been careful when dealing with people and matters. Through constant tolerance and accumulation, he finally broke out of the cage and realized everything he had dreamed of. Book ID equals 173-5714, book name equals Super Martial Arts. Chapter 87. Here comes the second update, calling for brothers to provide support. Besides the serial number on the back and chest, each martial arts student's exam robe was the same. Plus, with the mask, most likely they would not recognize themselves if they were to look at themselves in the mirror. With the sound of a long horn, the exam officially began. Qin Wushuang's body rushed out of the bushes like a leopard cat. When he was hiding and resting while waiting for the exam to begin, he already saw a shining jade plate on a branch not far from him. Regardless of the serial number of the jade plate, he must take it when he saw it. Everything was difficult at the beginning. As long as he took the first one, the others would appear one after the other. With a jump, Qin Wushuang landed on the branch. With a glance, he saw a jade plate lying at the intersection of the branches. He turned it over and saw it was number 8. It was only worth 2 points. Despite this fact, he still decided to take it. For things like points, the more the better. Taking one would increase his chances of winning. Since the Bayou country had set up such a high prize, there was no reason for Qin Wushuang to not go for it. It would be difficult for the 2,000 martial arts students in the Bayou country to take the first place. However, to Qin Wushuang, it was not impossible. At least, regarding strength, if Qin Wushuang claimed to be number 2, no one would dare to claim to be number 1. Of course, this exam also required luck. Sometimes, if you were strong but lacked luck and could not find the jade plate that belonged to you, it would greatly affect the entire exam plan. Besides, it was also important to perform on the spot and grasp the situation. Qin Wushuang decided to gain the upper hand by a show of strength. It would be good to find a few jade plates. The more jade plates he had, the more secure he would be. Although the exam area was only 50 miles of activity area, However, to 50 people, 50 miles was already an exaggeration. In particular, it was quite difficult to find 50 jade tokens within a 50-kilometer radius. Fortunately, each and every one of them was an upper-level martial arts student who had received good training. They were the best among their peers in all aspects. At the beginning of the trial, Qin Wushuang was like a fish in water or a tiger in a forest. He fully displayed his all-rounder characteristic. Through the investigation of the terrain, various speculations about the details, and the common trait of human beings for hiding things, he dug out 4 jade plates from many blind spots within a day. The harvest was bountiful. Among the 4, one of them was number 26, with the same ending as Qin Wushuang. It was worth 5 points. The other 3 were 2 ordinary accumulative points jade tokens. In addition to the one he had obtained earlier, Qin Wushuang had quietly obtained 5 jade plates on the first day, totaling 13 points. Although each of the 4 jade tokens was only worth 2 cents, if they were used properly, they would be worth far more than 2 cents. However, Qin Wushuang did not intend to use him now. At night, Qin Wushuang did not intend to take action. Although the exam only lasted for a month, every minute and every second was crucial. However, it was not the right way to fight for every minute. Although a day of action did not harm his body, he had used up a lot of energy and concentration. It was necessary to conserve and store up energy. Moreover, the night was dark and windy. Although Qin Wushuang had great night vision, he could not move as freely as during the day. Especially searching for the jade plates, it was a highly technical job. If his vision was limited, his efficiency would be greatly reduced. He jumped onto a lush tree and Qin Wushuang closed his eyes to rest. As a great expert like him, even if he was resting, every inch of his skin and every nerve in his body could be said to be sensitive. If someone were to pass by within 500 meters, they would not escape Qin Wushuang's ears. Most likely, these martial arts students had the idea of acting more stealthily at night. They planned to smear his name and sneak up on him. Only, in this dark and windy night, it was still a big question as to how much they would get. If things went wrong, there might even be a meaningless fight in the dark of the night because of a meaningless dispute and meaningless killing. At that time, not only would they not get the jade plates, they would also get hurt. After all, it had only been a day, and not everyone had a jade plate. At least, Qin Wushuang had gotten 5. In this case, it was destined that some people would end up empty-handed. Indeed, as Qin Wushuang had expected, in the second half of the night, the martial arts students who had been busy for half the night gradually became restless. They started to ambush their opponents when they had gotten nothing. If they killed the wrong person, they would not let them go. Regardless of whether they had the jade plates, they would take them down first. As soon as this dispute started, this area instantly became lively. Martial arts students who had heard the commotion kept gathering at this place. Qin Wushuang felt rather helpless. It seemed that others had also set their sights on the place he had chosen. Most likely, his plan to rest for the second half of the night would be ruined. However, before anyone discovered him, he did not plan to expose his identity. Of course, he would not hide intentionally. The content of this exam was very strange. It made it impossible for Qin Wushuang to hide completely. It was because once you hid, the person corresponding to you would not be able to find you, and the person corresponding to you would also not be able to find you. It would be better to expose himself occasionally and let them know his whereabouts. This way perhaps he could catch 1 or 2 big fish. If he could catch the corresponding martial arts student, it would save him a lot of trouble. However, the prerequisite was that the other party must have gotten the jade plates, or else it would be useless even if the person came and did not have the jade plates. With the sound of footsteps approaching, Qin Wushuang knew that someone had come. "Brother, you are so carefree." An indifferent voice sounded from under the tree. Qin Wushuang had already heard this person's footstep. However, He did not get up and continued to lie on the branch lazily. He said, "In the middle of the night, do you have the heart to be an evil guest that disturbs people's dreams?" Ha ha! That person was stunned. He did not expect that Qin Wushuang could be so calm. After all, in this exam place, people could be enemies. And they could be enemies that could take your life at any time. Initially, I also did not want to disturb your dreams. However, who asked for it to be so coincidental? Brother, your serial number has the same ending as mine. So, I could only lend you my jade plate. These words had attracted Qin Wushuang's attention. He sat up leisurely and glanced down. Under the dim light of the night, he glimpsed that person's tall figure. On the exam robe on his chest, the number 36 was embroidered. Indeed, the ending numbers were the same. Qin Wushuang gave a low sigh and said, "Could it be that you think I have already found my number?" That person smiled lightly and apparently, he had admitted this point. If not, how could you be so carefree? Qin Wushuang did not explain. A smile also emerged from the corner of his mouth. "I wonder, did you find your number 36 jade plate?" That person drew back the corner of his mouth and raised his eyebrows. "Could it be you also have other thoughts?" Qin Wushuang smiled. "The only goal of this exam is to obtain the jade plates. You plot against me, I plot against you, isn't the core of this exam?" That person stared at Qin Wushuang for a moment and nodded. "Your words also make sense. Well, cut the crap. My number 6 jade plate has not been obtained yet. And you, number 36 jade plate, should have already been obtained." Qin Wushuang said until here, turned over and jumped down from the tree. He clapped his hands lightly and said softly, "How about this, let's make a bet. Are you interested?" "Bet?" That person frowned slightly and asked warily. "I know that your number 36 jade plate has been obtained, and you want to get the number 6 jade plate from me. My jade token is worth 5 points to you. As for your number 36 jade token, it's also worth 5 points to me. Is that right?" "That's right," that person replied coldly. "In that case, although I don't have the number 6 jade plate, but fortunately, I got a number 26 jade plate. This means the same thing to you. Isn't that right?" With that, Qin Wushuang leisurely took out a jade plate from his arms and waved it in front of the person. It was the number 26 jade plate. That person saw that it was indeed a jade plate with the same ending number, and his eyes suddenly revealed a fanatical look. Qin Wushuang was delighted. He did not catch a big fish, but a medium fish took the bait. Chapter 88. Today's third update. Everyone, let's guess, how many points will Qin Wushuang get in the end? Or rather, how many points would be reasonable, haha. By the way, please log in and vote for him. Li Tian's goal is to get 50,000 votes before the auction. Currently there is hope, but it's not easy. Thus, I need you guys to reignite your firepower and support him as soon as possible. That person stared at the number 26 jade plate in Qin Wushuang's hand with a fanatical look. His heart beat violently. Inwardly, he already calculated, I already got my number 36 jade plate. Plus this number 26, I have 35 points in total. I can get 35 points on the first day. Next, it will not be a dream to get 80 points. I must get this jade plate. While he was thinking rapidly, he became calm inwardly. Since the other party dared to show him the jade plate, apparently, he was confident. However, for martial arts students who came here to participate in the exam, who would lack confidence, at the most crucial moment, he must use his strength. Qin Wushuang observed his body language. Although he was wearing a mask, the things revealed from his eyes could not be hidden by the mask. He asked with a smile, "What, do you dare to bet?" "Bet? How?" That person clenched his fist secretly and was already looking for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. "If you plan to sneak attack me while I'm talking, then you are wrong." Qin Wushuang warned with a smile, "If you want to bet, First take out your jade plate and let me see it. Or else, without the jade plate, what qualifications do you have to bargain with me?" That person laughed evilly. "If you want to see my jade plate, then beat me if you have the skills. If you have the skills, not to mention looking, I have nothing to say even if you take it away." "So, you decided to use brute force? What tricks do you have? Could it be you want to trick me?" That person laughed madly. "Don't you think that if you and I fight here, it will be a fight between the snipe and the clam? It will benefit those fishermen who want to take advantage of the situation. If they have the skills, then they can join us. The more people there are, the more exciting it will be." That person just didn't want to listen to Qin Wushuang's suggestion. In his opinion, Qin Wushuang's suggestion would definitely be beneficial to the other party, and not to him. "If that's the case, then I won't keep you company." After Qin Wushuang finished speaking, he turned around and leaped forward. Seeing Qin Wushuang was about to leave, the man lightly shouted, "Stop right there! Leave the jade tablet behind and you can go. If you want to take the jade tablet away, you should give up. Haha, if you have the strength, then go ahead and chase after me. You talk too much." As Qin Wushuang spoke, he had already leaped more than 10 meters away. Of course, he wouldn't run with all his might. Otherwise, the other party wouldn't even be able to see his back. He didn't want to make a move here because there were already too many eyes in the area. He moved forward at a neither fast nor slow speed and tried to lead that martial arts student to follow him without leaving a trace. About a quarter of an hour later, the terrain gradually became remote. He was also far away from that lively place from before. All the eyes that were watching him could no longer catch him. Qin Wushuang's body scuttled and disappeared into a clump of grass. That person had been following him and was on guard at each step. Apparently, he did not use all his strength and was keeping an eye on him. Apparently, he was also worried about getting hit by a sneak attack. When he got closer, he realized that he had lost Qin Wushuang's figure. There was a patch of dense grass in front of him. It was the so-called avoid entering a forest. Although this patch of grass was not a forest, it was half the height of a person. It was also a dangerous place. That person stopped outside the patch of grass and stopped moving forward. He sneered lightly. "You want to trick me? How could there be such a good thing? In the worst case, I won't go in. Let's see who can outlast the other." After he had finished speaking, this person actually took a few steps back. His body quickly moved backward and scuttled to a tall branch on the side of the road. Then, he looked into the distance. After a moment of observation, suddenly, the corner of his mouth twitched. He jumped down from the tree and kept picking up stones on the side of the road. His arms moved continuously. Pop, pop, pop. He continuously threw them into the grass. The momentum of this rain of stones was quite shocking. Continuously, they smashed the grass and caused the birds to fly in all directions. However, it was impossible to know how effective the stones would be, especially in this dark night. The other party was not a wooden man who would stand in place and let you hit him. However, under the current circumstances, this was the only way he could think of. Otherwise, he could only wait in place. After the rain of stones, the patch of grass returned to normal. That person cursed in a low voice and muttered resentfully, "This bastard's zodiac is a rabbit. He runs so fast." Just as he was about to retreat, a hand suddenly reached out from behind and patted him lightly on the shoulder. Aya! This shock wasn't small at all. He retreated a few steps and turned around, only to see Qin Wushuang staring at him with a smile. That expression was as happy as a hunter who saw his prey in his hands. He felt a chill down his spine and said involuntarily, "Why are you behind me? Give me the jade plate and I can spare your life." Qin Wushuang was expressionless. "Give me the jade plate and don't think about living." That martial arts student sneered and formed a knife with one of his palms. With a loud shout, he slashed toward Qin Wuxuang's neck. Since you made the first move, then don't blame me for being merciless, Qin Wuxuang said with a deep tone and threw out a punch. To a mere martial arts student, it was a small test of his skill. His punch arrived first, even though he had launched it later. He controlled his speed and power perfectly. The fist landed on that martial arts student's knife hand. With a muffled groan, that martial arts student's entire arm emitted a crisp sound of shattering. Like a kite with a broken string, his body flew a few meters away. He fell into the grass. Qin Wuxuang jumped up and landed before that martial arts student. Of course, he did not use all of his strength in this punch. He only controlled it to the extent of killing the other party. Of course, Qin Wuxuang understood this principle. He did not want to show too much of a demon. After all, it would make the other martial arts students in the team jittery at the slightest sound. Once this negative effect appeared, his next task of picking up the plates would become even more difficult. After a quick search, he quickly took out the number 36 plate from this martial arts student's body. Another 5 points were in his hands. Qin Wuxuang did not leave immediately after he took the jade plate. Instead, he tore off this martial arts student's exam robe and destroyed it. Then, he took his body to a hidden place and hid it. This way, even if this person's body was found in a few days, no one would know his serial number. It would also not cause too much panic among the other martial arts students with the same ending number. Qin Wuxuang was extremely meticulous. He had considered each step thoroughly. He must take care of each detail and not allow any carelessness to affect his efficiency in picking up the plates. After he had finished everything, Qin Wuxuang left quietly. Another jade plate was in his hand. Altogether, he had 18 points. Before the day and night was over, Qin Wuxuang was already very satisfied with this harvest. He believed that his first day's result would not be too bad. The only fly in the ointment was that he had not found that jade plate with his own serial number. If it had already fallen into the hands of other martial arts students, then it would be troublesome. He only hoped that the one with his serial number would appear soon. Or else it would take a lot of effort to accumulate 80 points. With the number 36 plate, Qin Wuxuang had completed an extra task. Of course, he would not make any more moves tonight. He decided to take a rest before dawn and recover his energy. He would move again after dawn. Those martial arts students who had moved at night had been tormented for an entire night. After dawn, it would be the time when their energy had decreased. If he made a move at that time, he would have a much higher chance of getting a plate. He found an absolutely secluded place, closed his eyes slightly and adjusted his breathing. Just like that, the night had passed. As soon as the first light of dawn arrived, Qin Wuxuang crawled out from the dark and rushed towards a crowded place. Pay attention, pay attention! I am number 25. I am collecting jade plates with my serial number, number 26 that corresponds to me, and the plates with the same ending number as me. I already have a few jade plates. However, to me, they are all 2-point plates and are not very useful. However, the low-point plates I have might be high-point plates to you guys. Thus, before noon, I decided to set up a stall here to exchange. As long as you have the jade plates that I need, if they are only worth 2 points, you can try your luck. Perhaps I have a jade plate that you need more. Let's benefit each other. On an empty lawn, a martial arts student started to set up a stall. However, this martial arts student was very cunning as he did not mention which jade plates he had. He also did not mention how many plates he had. However, with his actions, a lot of people had paid attention to him. A dozen martial arts students surrounded him. Apparently, they all wanted to try their luck. However, due to the strange situation, no one was willing to be the first one to go up. Apparently, they all had their concerns. Everyone, don't worry. I promise with my honor that as long as you have the jade plates I need, I will exchange them fairly. 1 for 1. Everyone takes what they need. That person paused for a moment and added, "Of course, if anyone has bad intentions, then forget it. I won't reveal which numbered jade tablets I have in advance. Besides, I don't have the plates with me. If you guys have bad intentions, even if you all come up and kill me together, you will not find anything. You won't be able to find anything, haha." Qin Wushuang slowly walked closer. This person wanted number 26, and Qin Wushuang already had it. In Qin Wushuang's hands, number 26 was only worth 5 points. And in that person's hands, it was worth 20 points. With a thought, Qin Wushuang had some ideas. Chapter 89. Qin Wushuang slowly walked down the slope and approached the crowd. He glanced around and suddenly, his gaze stopped. Number 19. Among the crowd, one of the examiner's robe had the number 19 clearly written on it. Tong Yao's little brother? It was truly a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find him without any effort. Initially, Qin Wushuang was still thinking about when he should spend some time to find this number 19. He did not expect to meet him at this place. Qin Wushuang squeezed into the crowd and deliberately made some movement. He pushed and shoved to make those martial arts students look at him. He wanted to test the reaction of this number 19 and see if Tong Yao had revealed the truth to her little brother or not. Number 19 glanced at Qin Wushuang and looked at him a little longer. However, he did not seem to have any special reaction. Like the others, he continued to turn around and look at that stall. Apparently, the people who had stopped before the stall were all watching or waiting for someone to speak first. The first one to eat crabs always came with risk. Thus, when Qin Wushuang squeezed to the front, no one was particularly dissatisfied. They were all counting on this newcomer to strike up a conversation and test the waters. That number 25 who had set up the stall was worried that no one would go up. When he saw Qin Wushuang squeezing forward from the back, it was as if he had seen a long-lost brother. Qin Wushuang could not adapt to his excited tone. Number 6. HM? When Qin Wushuang saw his eagerness, he instantly became vigilant. "Do you have a jade plate?" Number 25 rubbed his palms with a smile of exultation. "Among the jade plates I have, one of them is very important to you. Do you have a suitable one?" "Nonsense, who would come up if I don't have a suitable one?" Qin Wushuang pretended to be careless and waved his hand casually. "Don't keep us in suspense. Everyone, take out your jade plates. Who doesn't know how to talk? We only need the jade plates to speak, everything else is meaningless." That number 25 smiled apologetically. Yes, we need the jade plates to speak. Only when we have the plates we will be the most persuasive. But big brother, you have to understand. My strength is average, and I have a few jade tokens on me. It's definitely very dangerous. Therefore, he didn't bring the jade token with him. But I can guarantee that only you have a jade token. The one in my hand is something that you've been dreaming of. Qin Wushuang coldly observed his every word and action. Gradually, he smacked his lip. This person was simple and honest with a hint of cunning. He was definitely a tough character to deal with. Don't look at how sweet his mouth was. He was definitely a smiling tiger with honey in his mouth and a sword in his heart. To deal with such a person, one had to be even more sinister and vicious than him. Of course, Qin Wushuang didn't care about this. The only thing he wanted to know was whether this person really had the jade card he needed. This was the key. What he was most concerned about now was still the problem of 80 points. Number 25 saw Qin Wushuang's disapproving expression and was clearly observing Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang cursed and swore, "Motherf *cur, you don't have a jade plate, so why are you setting up a stall? You're just messing with people, right? Who doesn't know how to do business without capital?" As he spoke, he patted his chest exaggeratedly. Come, everyone, I have 20 jade plates here. You can have whatever you want. As long as you give me the jade plate I want, I'll trade one for one." His exaggerated tone, gesticulating, and spittle flying everywhere gave others the impression of a boorish person. Those martial arts students could not help but laugh when they saw his actions. "That's right, without the jade plate, no one would believe you if you just say it. I think you should just close your stall. You don't have any sincerity," Qin Wushuang said proudly. "See? Everyone thinks you are bragging. How about it, go get the jade plate if you have it. I can even wait for you here." Number 25 grumbled in frustration. "Brother, you're undermining your little brother's plan. How about this, why don't you come with me to get it? However, the premise is that you must make me believe that you have the jade plate I need. Or else, I don't want to waste my time and take unnecessary risks. In the end, you only want to take advantage and not lose. I showed you the jade plate, what do you have to prove that you have it? If you don't believe me, then forget about this exchange," Number 25 said with a bitter face. Qin Wushuang scolded again and said impatiently, "Then tell me, how many jade plates do you have? Let me know if it's worth it or not. If it was just 5 points or something, this young master wouldn't have bothered to make this trip." Number 25 glanced across the entire place, as if he was observing something. After a moment, he said mysteriously, "One of the jade plates I have means 30 points to you. Number 6? "Yes," Number 25 said with a determined tone. "Since it's number 6, then why did you look around? I was thinking for your sake. If your number 45 martial arts student is here, it would be inconvenient for me to say it. If he is not here, it's okay for me to tell you." Qin Wushuang did not seem to believe him. Inwardly, he became even more cautious. For this number 25, regardless of who it was, everyone could see that he was pretending to be weak and pretending to be weak. It was also obvious that his words were exaggerated. However, this person's strength was that although his words were exaggerated, they were also true. His strength lay in the fact that you could not tell which of his words were true and which were false. Thus, for the time being, Qin Wushuang could not tell whether he had the number 6 jade plate or not. However, he would rather believe it than not. If the number 6 jade plate was in his hands and he lost this opportunity, wouldn't it be troublesome? Qin Wushuang would definitely believe that this person had evil intentions. However, Qin Wushuang was very confident. Even if this person had some evil ideas, he would not be afraid. There was a saying of how a skilled person would be bold. If this number 25 were to play some tricks, of course, Qin Wushuang had ways to make him lift a stone and smash it on his own feet. Now, the difficult part was how to judge whether the other party had the jade plate or not. When he saw Qin Wushuang did not speak, number 25 thought that Qin Wushuang was hesitating. He saw the opportunity and said, "Regardless of whether you believe me or not, I will wait for you there for 2 hours. If you are not here in 2 hours, I will end the exchange. Everyone will still get the jade plate with their own skills." After he had finished speaking, he packed up his simple stall and turned to leave. After he had walked a few steps, he suddenly remembered something. He turned around and said, "Go west for 14 or 15 miles. There is a small stream. Go past it and there is a canyon. There is a cave on the left side. I will wait for you there." After he had walked a few steps, he still felt uneasy and warned again, "For the rest of you, don't go and join in the fun. Unless you have the jade plate I need. Or else, I will not show up." Qin Wushuang only smiled and did not speak. He did not express his stance and let that person leave. Since he had already reported the location, he must go take a look. Regardless of what tricks he was playing, whether it was true or not, he would only give up after he had seen it. When number 25 left, those martial arts students who had been watching felt somewhat disappointed. They did not expect that this person would leave just like that. Initially, these people still had the thought of trying. When they saw number 25 had left, they naturally turned to Qin Wushuang. "Mister, how many jade plates do you have? Yes, how many do you have? Let's exchange it. Qin Wushuang knew what these people were planning. Apparently, his careless performance a moment ago had already confused these martial arts students. When these people saw how bold he was, they all had crooked thoughts. Just you guys, do you have jade plates? Qin Wushuang snorted lightly. With a disdainful tone, he looked disdainfully at this group of martial arts students. Of course we have jade plates. I am just afraid you don't have one. Why don't you take it out and show it to everyone? Yes, don't be like that guy from a moment ago and talk nonsense. It would be strange if Qin Wushuang would be knocked down by such a low-level method of provocation. He grinned and shouted, "Go away if you don't have jade plates. I don't have time to play with you guys. I am going to exchange with number 25. Before he had taken a few steps, another shout came from behind him. "Brother, please wait." Qin Wushuang did not turn his head. He had already recognized the position of the person who had spoken. It was exactly where number 19 had stood a moment ago. This way, it should be number 19 who had asked him to wait. He turned around and indeed, it was number 19. He looked at Qin Wushuang with eager eyes and said in a low voice, "Brother, can we talk in private?" Talk in private? Could it be Tong Yao had already told her brother the inside story? Or else, why would he ask Qin Wushuang to talk in private? Chapter 90. Follow me. Qin Wushuang left these 3 words and took the lead to walk forward. He wanted to test this little brother of Tong Yao and see what kind of character he was and whether he was someone he could carry. If he was a useless character, it would be extremely difficult to help him pass this exam. After walking for a while, he looked back and indeed, number 19 had followed him without hesitation. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang nodded. His first impression was good. Regardless of this kid's other aspects, at least in terms of courage and insight, he was excellent. When the other martial arts students were hesitating, he had already made the decision. At least, he was a decisive person. After going up a few slopes, they arrived at a higher place. Qin Wushuang confirmed that this area was very safe. Plus, with the whistling mountain wind, it seemed that they were not worried about others eavesdropping. Under such wind, it was basically impossible for martial arts students to eavesdrop from 100 meters away. What is it, speak? Qin Wushuang was not in a hurry to say anything. He must first confirm that this number 19 was Tong Yao's little brother. If he made a mistake, wouldn't it be a big mistake? Number 19 stood about 10 meters away from Qin Wushuang. He gazed into Qin Wushuang's eyes as if he was making a decision. Qin Wushuang did not expose him and met his gaze calmly. In the end, number 19 lost in the battle of gazes. He smiled bitterly and asked, "Brother, you have sharp eyes." "Really? I think my eyes are very calm." "Yes, you are very calm. However, you are able to remain calm under other people's gaze. This is a kind of incomparable sharpness." Qin Wushuang could not help but laugh. He did not see that Tong Yao's little brother had such a sharp tongue. It seemed that this kid was not simple. "That number 25 asked you to go. Do you want to go?" Number 19 suddenly asked again. "Why not? You are not afraid that he will lie to you?" Obtaining tokens in the trial has always been a matter of mutual deceit. He lied to me, so why can't I lie to him? Number 19 looked at Qin Wushuang in surprise and nodded thoughtfully. Suddenly, he asked without rhyme or reason, "May I ask which territory you're from?" "Take a guess." Qin Wushuang's heart skipped a beat. Why did he ask about his background? Did Tong Yao really tell her brother about this? "I guess you're Prince Akaji's, and you should be from South Cloud State." Qin Wushuang was completely stunned. She looked at number 19 in surprise and didn't answer. She just waited for him to continue. If Tong Yao had really told her brother everything, then it was clearly time to lay all her cards on the table. Number 19 wasn't surprised to see Qin Wushuang's expression. He smiled and asked, "Brother, do you find it strange?" "It's not strange. Not strange." Number 19 felt strange instead. "Then which department do you think I belong to?" "You are also Prince Akaji's." This time it was number 19's turn to be stunned. "How do you know?" Qin Wushuang saw his expression and his heart skipped a beat. Did Tong Yao not tell him about this? But if that was the case, how did he know that Qin Wushuang came from Prince Akaji? "First, tell me how you know I'm Prince Akaji." Qin Wushuang really didn't like this kind of roundabout way, but there was no other way. Tong Yao had helped the Qin family, and now it was time to repay her kindness. Since Tong Yao said that he couldn't let her brother know, then he obviously had to keep it a secret for her. Accent. Number 19 suddenly said, "My family itself likes to collect information. And I like to study all kinds of dialects and accents. Your accent clearly has a bit of South Cloud State's local accent. I definitely won't be wrong about this. I didn't expect you to have this kind of ability. Say you're looking for me. It shouldn't be as simple as being from the same hometown, right?" Qin Wushuang continued to probe. "I want to cooperate with you." Number 19 finally said his true intention. "Cooperate? That's right." Number 19 said firmly and analyzed, "You're number 6, I'm number 19. Our interests and needs don't overlap at all. This is the first basis for our cooperation. Secondly, we both come from Prince Akaji, and under the condition that our personal interests aren't affected, we can cooperate for the group's benefit. Thirdly, according to my observation, your temperament is a reliable partner." Qin Wushuang laughed. Number 19's analysis of the 3 reasons, at least the first 2 points, were very convincing. One was number 6, the other was number 19. Both of them didn't have the same number, and they didn't have the same ending number. Even if they had the corresponding jade plate, they didn't need it. In other words, they didn't need the same jade plate. This determined that their interests and needs didn't overlap, and they had the conditions to cooperate. And in this trial, if the group's results were outstanding, there would be rewards. Under the condition that their personal interests didn't conflict, cooperating for the group was a matter of course. Although the reason was very good, but according to Qin Wushuang's character, if he wasn't Tong Yao's brother, even if the reason was 10 times better, he still wouldn't agree. "How about it?" Number 19 saw Qin Wushuang's silence, and thought that he was considering it. Then he added, "To show my sincerity, I can reveal a piece of information that is 100% reliable to you. If you've heard of my family in Prince Akaji, you should know that the information I provide is 100% reliable." Qin Wushuang had fully experienced Tong Yao's family's ability to gather information. He didn't doubt this. But for now, number 19 didn't know that he had a deal with Tong Yao. So even if they cooperated, number 19 might have some other plans in mind. He didn't want Qin Wushuang to find a way to help him, but he would find a way to scheme against Qin Wushuang. If such a situation happened, it would be very depressing. What information? Qin Wushuang still decided to sound him out first. Just now, that number 25 said that he has your number 6 jade token. I can tell you with certainty that it's false information. Maybe he has other jade tokens that you need, but it definitely can't be the number 6 jade token. When these words came out, Qin Wushuang's heart thumped. His eyes revealed a thoughtful expression, and he looked suspiciously at number 19. Obviously, he wanted to know why he was so sure. "Do you want to ask me why I'm so sure?" Qin Wushuang nodded. "Yes, why?" "Because the number 6 jade token is already in my hands." Number 19's words almost made Qin Wushuang's jaw drop. He looked at number 19 in disbelief. "It's in your hands?" "Of course it's not in my hands, but if you can take out a jade token that moves me, I can take you to get it right now. Or you can wait for me here. But the premise is that you have the jade token I need. Even if it's a jade token worth 5 points. Because the number 6 jade token is in my hands, it's just 2 points. Number 19's tone was obviously much more sincere than number 25. Sorry, I don't have the jade token you need. But please keep the number 6 jade token for me. I will definitely find the jade token you need to exchange with you. Qin Wushuang believed 70 to 80%. Letting Qin Wushuang wait here and letting him get it were two completely different things. The sincerity represented was also completely different. Letting him get it, who knows if it was a trap waiting for him to fall into? And waiting here, waiting at ease, the risk was much smaller. Therefore, both of them said that they had his number 6 jade token. However, Qin Wushuang trusted number 19 more. It was not because he was Tong Yao's younger brother. Number 19 nodded. Well, since you said so, even if others take my number 19 jade token to exchange with me, I will give priority to you. This is my sincerity, in order to show my sincerity. Qin Wushuang nodded. Okay, it's a deal. They extended their palms and hit each other. Qin Wushuang said with emotion, Please rest assured, if you have the number 6 jade token, I will not exchange it with less than 30 points. It's really a coincidence. Could it be that Tong Yao's younger brother was really at the behest of gods and devils to pick up my number 6 jade token first? While Qin Wushuang was thinking, he heard number 19 say, Okay, since we have reached an agreement, the next target is number 32, which is my number. According to my investigation, number 32 should have already obtained the jade tablet with his number. If you can help me get this number 32 jade token, I will give you the number 6 jade token for free. Give it for free? Inwardly, Qin Wushuang praised this kid. Indeed, he had courage, foresight, and courage. When it was necessary, he knew how to sacrifice small profits to pursue big profits. With his strength as a level 7 martial arts student, he would not have the chance to win if he fought head-on. However, he knew how to use his strengths and the rules to find the most suitable ally. People could not help but admire him. Compared to those martial arts students who only had strength but refused to use their brains, he was more than one level ahead. Chapter 91. Okay, 3 days later, at the same place. Take the number 6 jade token and wait for me here. When the time comes, I will definitely bring the number 32 jade token you need to exchange with you. The prerequisite is that your information must be reliable. You will act alone? Number 19 asked in surprise. Since you are good at information, let's have a clear division of labor. You go collect information and find out the whereabouts of the jade tokens. I will take the tokens. Remember, if your information is wrong, our cooperation will end here. Although number 19 was warned by Qin Wushuang, he didn't take it seriously. Instead, he was secretly happy. At least, the other party had already agreed to the cooperation. As long as his information was reliable, the basis of this cooperation would definitely become more and more reliable. Speaking of information work, it just so happened that it was his strongest point. He nodded and said, Okay, 3 days later, see you there. Qin Wushuang smiled faintly. See you there. I hope that when the time comes, we can also be on the qualifying list for Prince Akaji, haha. After saying that, he strode away. Brother, where are you going? From Qin Wushuang's words, number 19 had obviously realized that the person in front of him was definitely not the boorish person he had shown in front of everyone earlier. On the contrary, the more he talked, the more unfathomable he seemed. As deep as the galaxy above his head. It made him feel that this person was not to be underestimated. I'm going to meet that number 25. Although that person didn't say much, I feel that he should have some good stuff there. Anyway, I won't have a clue even if I walk around aimlessly. Having a goal and a direction is much better than a headless fly running around aimlessly. Qin Wushuang left a string of echoes in the distance. His figure had already gone down the slope and disappeared. Number 19 was stunned for a moment before coming back to his senses. He pondered. It seems that the collaborator I found is not ordinary. Fortunately, my interests do not overlap with his needs. Otherwise, things will be bad. Qin Wushuang followed the location provided by number 25 and walked west for about 15 miles. Sure enough, he saw a mountain stream flowing slowly. On the opposite side of the mountain stream, there was a canyon that went through two mountains. It looked rather deep and mysterious. Qin Wushuang stopped on the side of the stream and was not in a hurry to cross it. As the saying goes, don't enter a forest and don't cross a river. For martial artists, this could be said to be common sense. Although the other party was only a martial arts student, it was never wrong to be cautious. This was because there were too many unknown things in this world. It was true that one was strong and confident, but one had to prevent any accidents from happening. Standing by the stream, Zhang Xian observed for a moment. The stream was so clear that the bottom could be seen. No matter who it was, it would only reach their knees at most. There shouldn't be any tricks under the water. In terms of poisoning, the success rate of underwater poisoning was almost negligible. However, it could not be completely eliminated. Qin Wushuang reached into his bosom and took out a silver needle. He tested it for a moment, but the silver needle did not change color. Only then did he confirm that there was nothing wrong with the stream. At that moment, he didn't show off his strength. Instead, he walked over steadily. He knew that number 25 must be hiding in a corner to observe him. Now was not the time to reveal his strength. Sure enough, after crossing the stream, a figure emerged from the col on the opposite side of the canyon. It was number 25. The gap between the valleys was only a dozen meters wide. With any martial arts student's strength, they would have the confidence to jump over. Haha, I knew you would come. Number 25 greeted him with a smile. Qin Wushuang stopped his footsteps and used his martial arts intuition to feel the surrounding environment. He had a feeling that this person had asked him to meet here because he had his own plans. Stop with the nonsense, where is your jade plate? Qin Wushuang scolded him roughly. Haha, to be honest, I don't have the number 6 jade plate that you want. Number 25's voice sounded from the other side. You don't have it? Qin Wushuang frowned slightly. Yes, a moment ago when I was there, I said I had the number 6 jade plate to confuse them. Please forgive me. In fact, I have the number 45 jade plate that corresponds to yours. Qin Wushuang was not in a hurry to answer, nor did he become furious. Since the number 6 jade plate was in the hands of Tong Yao's little brother, surely this person did not have it. Why would he admit it now? Could it be he had already noticed that I was suspicious of him? Regardless of what tricks he was up to, if he had the number 45 jade plate, it would be an unexpected surprise. Darn it, let's see how long you are going to lie. Without the jade plate, I am not going to keep you company. You can play by yourself. Qin Wushuang loosened the reins only to grasp them better and was about to leave. Big brother, don't rush. Number 25 immediately cried out, if you want to see, I can show it to you. However, you must first tell me the number of your jade plate. If it doesn't suit me, I will not exchange. When Qin Wushuang arrived here, there were no eyes or ears around. Of course, he was not worried about exposing anything. He took out the number 26 jade plate and placed it on his palm. Do you see it? You can read, right? 26. The one that corresponds to yours is worth 20 points. Qin Wushuang did not take it back. He spread it on his palm and let him observe it. Number 25 stared at it for a long time. He secretly swallowed the saliva in his throat and murmured, "It really is number 26. Good, you wait here." A moment later, number 25 came out from the valley with a jade plate in his hand. He spread it on his palm and said, "Look carefully, number 45 jade plate. Is that right?" This jade plate naturally could not be fake. Qin Wushuang nodded, good, then let's count 1, 2, 3 and throw it to each other. How about it? If the other side was not playing tricks, it would be best. He did not want to create more trouble. However, his intuition told him that this number 25 was not a kind person. Maybe there was more to it. Sure enough, number 25 shook his head. No, if we throw it to each other, no one can guarantee that they will really throw it after counting. If one side throws it and the other side doesn't, it will be troublesome. What should you do? Qin Wushuang sneered in his heart. If it were not for the 10-meter-wide valley on both sides, he would not have been polite. Even so, he had secretly gathered his momentum and was ready to launch a surprise attack. Let's put the jade plates in a safe place. Then I will take yours and you will take mine. How about it? The more the other side acted like this, the more it proved that he had ulterior motive. Qin Wushuang felt that this person was very shrewd. Separated by a ravine, he could not act rashly. He pushed the boat with the current and said, "Okay, you put it first." Number 25 nodded and said, "I'll go first." After saying that, he walked 50 meters to the right and stopped. After squatting down, he gently put down the jade plate. Then he stood up and said to Qin Wushuang from afar, "You put the jade plate where it is. We will walk together. How about it?" Qin Wushuang had been watching his every move. At first, every step was very natural, but the last movement of squatting down made Qin Wushuang secretly suspicious. It was just a jade plate. Did he have to squat down to put it down? Looking up at the terrain, it just happened to face a forest on the hillside. Qin Wushuang secretly had some thoughts, but he did not expose them. He laughed loudly and said, "You are really careful. Look carefully. I put the number 26 jade plate here." He also squatted down and put down the number 26 jade plate. Suddenly, 2 cobblestones appeared in his hand and he clasped them between his 5 fingers. "Okay, now let's walk step by step. I will go back to my original place. You walk this way. When you are near the jade plate, you can fly over the canyon," Number 25 said and walked back the way he came. Halfway through, suddenly, Qin Wushuang gave a strange smile. Both of his feet kept kicking and a few piles of dirt were kicked away by Qin Wushuang. Pop, pop, pop! It flew toward the location of the jade token. This piece of soil was about the size of a wicker basket. When it landed on the location of the jade tablet, it made a boom sound. In an instant, the area 5 to 6 meters around the jade tablet sank, and a huge pit appeared. Number 25 had been paying attention to Qin Wushuang. Seeing him suddenly explode, he knew that something was wrong. Seeing Qin Wushuang's powerful kick, he turned around and ran. Whoosh! The cobblestone in Qin Wushuang's hand shot out. With an ear-piercing sound, it hit the back of number 25's head. Pooh! A bloody hole opened and blood spurted out. Number 25 fell to the ground and stopped breathing. Qin Wushuang was not careless. He was not in a hurry to jump over. Instead, he picked up the dirt on the ground and shot it around the large hole. Sure enough, wherever the stone went, countless bamboo spears and arrows flew out from the opposite forest like a swarm of locusts. Suddenly, the large hole was filled with bamboo spears and arrows. Qin Wushuang secretly broke out in cold sweat. If he was not careful and careless, the layers of traps and mechanisms would be enough to make him suffer. He did not expect that number 25 was actually a trap expert. Just from the outside, Qin Wushuang, an expert, could not see any traces of traps. If number 25's last move had not aroused Qin Wushuang's suspicion, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Where is that jade plate? Qin Wushuang thought, but he was more concerned about the number 45 jade plate. Recommended The Peak of Martial Arts, the old author's new book. In the Kanglan continent, profound beasts wreaked havoc, sects stood in great numbers, and experts were as common as clouds. A youth who never bowed his head and a mysterious pearl, what kind of bloody storm would it set off? Book ID equals 165 4916, book name equals The Peak of Martial Arts. Chapter 92. Yesterday's recommendation failed miserably. The recommendation list is in danger. Brothers, rise up. Concentrate your firepower and fire another round of fierce shots. After eliminating all the traps and mechanisms, Qin Wushuang finally returned to the original path. He first picked up that number 26 jade plate he had put down. Then, he jumped over the canyon and scuttled to the opposite hillside. When he arrived before that giant pit and looked down, Qin Wushuang also drew in a breath of cold air. Not to mention the bamboo spears and bamboo arrows around the giant pit. Even if there were no bamboo spears and arrows, the consequences would be unimaginable if someone had jumped into this pit. Underneath this giant pit, caltrops, sharp wooden stakes, bamboo skewers, and other sharp objects were buried. The sharp places were all covered with a layer of strange blue substance. Apparently, it was a powerful poison. The most deadly thing was, inside this giant pit, there were 5 or 6 poisonous snakes with triangular heads. Each of them raised their heads and flicked out their tongues. It would make people's hair stand on end. Fortunately, Qin Wushuang was already prepared. He pulled out 2 long bamboo spears from around the giant pit. One spear after another, he instantly nailed all these poisonous snakes to death in the giant pit. After he had done all this, Qin Wushuang also wiped off a layer of cold sweat. When the mountain wind blew, Qin Wushuang secretly felt lucky. A moment ago, if he had relied on his courage and scuttled over to take the jade plate and fell into that giant pit, the soil and grass on the surface would not have been able to withstand the force of the fall. Once he had fallen into the trap, it seems that I must not let down my guard. These martial arts students are elites from all over the country. If they have special skills in using poison, traps, or repelling insects, I must not worry about them. It seems that the next time I encounter this kind of situation, I must fully utilize the use of hidden weapons. As Qin Wushuang thought, he had already taken that jade plate from the trap. Indeed, it was number 45. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang was overjoyed. Although this trip was not easy, at least there were some unexpected gains. However, Qin Wushuang was not satisfied with just this. He scuttled to the corpse of number 25. He was not in a hurry to search. Instead, he used the bamboo spear in his hand to open his mage robe. After he had opened the mage robe, everything inside his chest fell out. Qin Wushuang drew a breath of cold air. Among all these things, there was a scorpion with a spotted back. It was not big, but its shape was extremely terrifying. What a vicious fellow! It seems that even though this fellow is dead, he doesn't forget to harm others. He really has ulcers on the top of his head and pus on the soles of his feet. He's so bad. After smashing the scorpion, Qin Wushuang began to sweep through the area. Unexpectedly, number 25 had indeed gained quite a lot. 2 jade tokens also fell out of his robes. Unfortunately, these 2 jade tokens were only worth 2 points in Qin Wushuang's hands. However, one of them was the number 29 jade token. To Tong Yao's younger brother, it was worth 5 points. If Tong Yao's younger brother could really take out the number 6 jade token, then this jade token could be given to him as a favor. After all, it was not difficult for Qin Wushuang to obtain a 2-point jade token. After doing all this, Qin Wushuang did not stop. Instead, he cleaned up the scene. This terrain was extremely advantageous. Qin Wushuang had another idea. If Tong Yao's younger brother had obtained enough points, he could settle him down here and use the terrain and mechanisms to protect himself. Qin Wushuang turned around the slope and searched inside and out. Then, he found that deep and serene cave behind the kernel. He did not find any more jade tokens. To prevent people from disturbing him, Qin Wushuang hung the body of number 25 high on the tree to intimidate the passing martial arts students. After leaving this place, Qin Wushuang calculated inwardly. The next task is to find number 32 martial arts student. I will take the number 32 jade token from him and exchange it with Tong Yao's younger brother. Before this battle, I already got 2 5-point jade tokens. 4 2-point jade tokens, then I have 18 points. This number 25 gave me another 3 jade tokens. One is worth 20 points, and the other 2 are worth 2 points. Altogether, I have 42 points. If I get Tong Yao's younger brother's number 6 jade token, then I will have 72 points. With a rough calculation, Qin Wushuang had grasped the situation clearly. It seems that the best way is to collect another 10 points worth of jade tokens in these 3 days. This way, the total number of points would reach 82. Even if I give the number 29 jade token from number 25 to Tong Yao's younger brother and deduct 2 points, I would have 80 points and enough to qualify to cross over. Time is of the essence. I need to speed up. It's not slow to finish the transition in 5 days. However, who knows if there are any other demonic martial arts students among these 2 or 3,000 exam students. It was better to be safe than sorry. This time, Qin Wushuang was determined to be number 1. As for the competition between the 4 royal territories, or the team number 1, it was not something he could decide by himself. It would only be icing on the cake. He could only try his best. If Prince Akaji and the others did not live up to his expectations, then there was nothing he could do. Fortunately, this exam in the Bayou country had far more rewards for the individual than the team number 1. Unconditionally become a royal. Qin Wushuang did not have much interest in glory and wealth. However, in this world, the status of the family would benefit the future generations. If this time I can get a title of royal, I believe that father will be very happy. And sister's status would also rise along with it. By that time, let's see what De Shiheng has to say. As these thoughts flashed across his mind, Qin Wushuang's fighting spirit increased even more. He started his search for number 32. 2 days passed by quickly. In these 2 days, Qin Wushuang had used all kinds of methods such as interrogation, questioning, and analysis. Finally, he had grasped some of the whereabouts of number 32. He must admit that the whereabouts of this number 32 was extremely strange and unpredictable. And for sure, his strength was much higher than the average in the 3rd exam site. On the south side, Qin Wushuang looked as far as he could. In this exam site, the south side had the highest terrain and the most lush forest. Since that number 32 was moving around in that area, it proved that he had strong self-confidence. As he approached that forest, Qin Wushuang slowly moved forward in the outer forest. While he observed the terrain, he used his sense of smell, touch, and other senses to capture the little things around him. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang had an idea inwardly. 3 waves of qi, 3 waves of murderous intent that were deliberately hidden in 3 different places in a triangle shape. They were less than 100 meters away from each other and formed 3 triangular bags. The organizers tried every possible way to prevent the same faction from attacking the different faction. However, it's unavoidable to form a clique for personal gain. Qin Wushuang thought, these 3 should have formed an alliance and set up a trap to ambush the passing martial arts students. Humph, just in time. I still lack a few points. I believe that these 3 bastards should have gained a lot here. Let's start with them. When he thought here, Qin Wushuang did not stop his footstep. Instead, he kept moving forward. It was as if he knew nothing about the impending danger. Although he was already close to that martial arts student in the south, Qin Wushuang was not in a hurry to make the first move. He must wait for an opportunity. He must wait for the 3 of them to rush over at the same time. Or else, once he made a move to deal with this martial arts student in the south, those 2 on both sides would certainly run away when they saw his exceptional skills. This area was full of towering trees and would be a great place to escape. If one of them ran away and he did not have enough points, it would be troublesome. He crouched down and kept moving forward. From the corner of his eyes, he could already see the corner of that martial arts student in the south that was exposed among the dense leaves. Inwardly, he laughed. This level of sniping skill is too far away from those assassins in my former world. 50 meters, 30 meters, 20 meters, 15 meters, 10 meters, finally, he entered the effective attack range. That martial arts student from the south shook his arm and shot out the crossbow he had prepared earlier. 8 consecutive arrows shot out in succession, as if they were evil spirits that wanted to take his life. If Qin Wushuang was not mentally prepared and caught off guard, most likely these arrows would not pose a threat. Besides, he was already prepared. His body followed the direction of the arrows and retreated backward. He took the opportunity to fall into the dense forest behind him. Yo! A low whistle sounded. 3 martial arts students used all their speed to rush toward Qin Wushuang. Each of them held a sharpened bamboo spear in their hand. They wanted to end Qin Wushuang's life. Qin Wushuang narrowed his eyes and saw through the movements of these 3 people. 50 meters, 30 meters. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang's body bounced up like a spring. He raised his hand and the 3 bamboo arrows shot out like poisonous snakes. From 3 directions, the 3 bamboo arrows were like rainbows piercing through the sun. With a speed that the 3 martial arts students could not see clearly, they accurately shot into their throats. Chapter 93. If these 3 people were 100 meters away from him and escaped in different directions under the favorable terrain of this forest, Qin Wushuang was not confident that he could kill them all. However, these 3 people were all within 30 meters of him. Under the situation where there were no obstacles, even if each of them had a pair of wings, most likely they would not be able to escape. These 3 martial arts students had formed an ambush in this area. In these few days, 7 or 8 martial arts students had already died an unnatural death. When the 3 bodies were collected together, Qin Wushuang paid attention to their exam numbers. One of them was number 32. He was that sniper from the south. No wonder this number 32 had been moving around this area. He already had an accomplice. Qin Wushuang thought and started to search for the spoils of war. Apparently, these 3 martial arts students had formed an alliance and thought that they were 100% safe. Thus, they had put all the valuable things in their bags, including the jade plates. After he had opened all the bags, Qin Wushuang was secretly speechless. Good Lord, these 3 bastards! He did not expect that in just a few days, the 3 of them had collected 8 jade plates. Looking through the jade tokens one by one, he soon found the number 32 jade token that Tong Yao's younger brother needed. What Qin Wushuang did not expect was that this number 32 had already collected the number 19 jade plate of Tong Yao's little brother. This guy is not simple. Looking at the 4 jade plates on him, they are worth 57 points. As for the other 2, they're just walk-ons. However, among the jade plates on those 2 extras, one of them was number 46. To Qin Wushuang, it was worth 5 points. However, this time, he had acquired 8 jade plates. To Qin Wushuang, there was a lot of room for change. As long as Tong Yao's little brother could take out the number 6 jade plate, Qin Wushuang could easily gather 80 points. It seems that in this exam site, it's more profitable to catch the big fish. In these 2 battles, I have acquired 11 jade plates in total. Plus the 6 jade plates I acquired earlier, I already have 17 jade plates. The 3 days should be up. I wonder how Tong Yao's little brother got? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but fall silent. The 2 most valuable jade plates that Tong Yao's younger brother needed were on this number 32. If it weren't for Qin Wushuang, no matter how good Tong Yao's brother's intelligence was, he would still be eliminated. After dealing with the aftermath, Qin Wushuang quietly left the place. Now, he just had to wait for the results from Tong Yao's brother. As long as he obtained the number 6 jade token, everything in this trial area would have nothing to do with him. After a night's rest, Qin Wushuang set off for the meeting place with Tong Yao's brother the next day. What he didn't expect was that Tong Yao's younger brother had already arrived. Standing on the hillside, he kept looking into the distance. When he saw Qin Wushuang arrive, he waved his hand. "You're early." Qin Wushuang greeted him with a smile. Tong Yao's younger brother seemed a little worried. "Brother, according to my latest information, number 32 has already been destroyed. It's very likely that the jade medallion on him has already been lost." "What about the number 6 jade token?" Qin Wushuang smiled faintly and opened his palm. It was the number 32 jade token that Tong Yao's younger brother had proposed earlier. Tong Yao's younger brother was greatly surprised. He looked at Qin Wushuang in shock and suddenly realized. "So, number 32 was killed by you?" After being stunned for a moment, he remembered something. He reached into his pocket and took out a jade token. He smiled bitterly and said, "I'm ashamed to say that I found this number 6 jade token as soon as I entered the trial area. Moreover, this is the only jade token I've obtained so far. This is the so-called value of 1,000 gold." Qin Wushuang smiled and glanced around. Seeing that there were no spying eyes, he smiled and said, "As the saying goes, quality is more important than quantity. This jade token is worth 1,000 gold to me. And you're willing to take the initiative to cooperate with me. It proves that you have a good eye. So, I want to congratulate you. I've received my appreciation." While Qin Wushuang joked, he kept taking out jade plates from his bosom as if he was performing a magic trick. He spread them out one by one. He spread out 5 jade tokens in a row, making Tong Yao's younger brother dumbfounded. He almost couldn't turn his eyes. Among these 5 jade tokens, except for the 2.1, the other 4 were worth 1,000 gold to him. Even his number 19 jade token was among them. The 5 jade badges were numbered 19, 32, 29, 49, and a 2-point jade badge. This. Tong Yao's younger brother stared at Qin Wushuang. Obviously, he didn't understand Qin Wushuang's intention. "Use these jade tokens to exchange for the number 6 jade token in your hand, is it enough?" Tong Yao's younger brother tried hard to control his emotions and said stutteringly, "Enough, enough, this, isn't it too much? Haha, to me, they're just 5 2-point jade tokens. Use 10 points to exchange for 30 points. It's not much," Qin Wushuang said with a smile. "Mutual benefit, maximization of value." Qin Wushuang added, "Of course, this is also a reward for your eye." Tong Yao's younger brother looked at Qin Wushuang seriously. After confirming that the other party wasn't joking, he smiled bitterly. "So, brother, you've already collected 80 points?" Qin Wushuang replied with a light "and." "When do you plan to leave?" Tong Yao's younger brother secretly felt that it was a pity. If he could cooperate with such a person for 2 more days, he might have a chance to get 80 points. Unfortunately, this trial was too important for everyone. Every inch of time was worth an inch of gold. It was impossible for Qin Wushuang to stay for him. "I'll make some adjustments today and leave tomorrow." If it were up to Qin Wushuang, he would have left today. But since he promised Tong Yao, he decided to go all the way. From the first day, Qin Wushuang had acquired a total of 17 jade plates. He gave 5 to Tong Yao's brother in exchange for a number 6 jade plate. Currently, he had 13 jade plates, 1 number 6 and 1 number 45, which added up to 50 points. The other 3 were number 26, 36, and 46. Each of them were 5 points. The remaining 8 were all 2-point jade plates. In total, he had 81 points. It was enough to guarantee his qualification to cross. The reason why he planned to stay for another day was to help Tong Yao's brother get a few more points. Even if he got close to 80 points, the rest would depend on his own effort. If Tong Yao's brother could not even get one jade plate, then it could only be said that he was a loser. He believed that Tong Yao should be very satisfied that he had done all this. After all, with the 5 jade plates in Tong Yao's brother's hand, he already had 62 points. With these points, he would not be qualified to cross. However, among all of Prince Akaji's martial arts students, it should not be a problem for him to rank in the top 30. After some calculation, even if someone from each of the 50 exam sites had obtained the qualification to cross, there would only be 50 people. Spread out among the 4 royal territories, there would only be 12 or 13 people from each territory. According to Qin Wushuang's research on the rules, it was impossible for each territory to have someone with the ability to cross. In this exam, strength was one thing, but luck and judgment were also important. Of course, in the end, it still required comprehensive strength. After some calculation, as long as he got close to 80 points, it would be enough for him to pass. As for crossing, to those martial arts students who did not have an overwhelming advantage in strength, it might not be a good thing. After all, even if you were powerful in this exam site, you would not be as familiar with the environment as those martial arts students in the new exam site. It would be easy to get hit by someone. Thus, Qin Wushuang guessed that for some conservative and steady martial arts students, even if they had collected 80 points, they would not necessarily cross. Both parties put away the jade plate. Qin Wushuang laughed. Today, let's move together. If we find jade plates, you and I will split them equally. You can have the higher points you need, and I will have the higher points I need. How about it? Initially, Tong Yao's brother was somewhat disappointed. However, when he heard Qin Wushuang's words, he instantly became excited and his blood started to boil. In total, there were 50 jade plates in one exam site. Qin Wushuang had 13, and Tong Yao's brother had 5. Between the two of them, they had taken 18 plates. In other words, this exam site still had 32 jade plates for them to fight for. Qin Wushuang clapped his hands and laughed lightly. Okay, let's start the hunt. According to Tong Yao's brother's information, the area where most of the martial arts students had gathered had already turned to the north. There was a pile of rocks with a radius of 20 miles. The rocks were rugged and filled with strange shape. Inside the stone forest, there were also flowers and trees with luxuriant grass. The terrain was extremely steep. It was a good place for martial arts students to move around. As the two of them kept moving closer, the scene along the way made them dumbstruck. Along the way, the bodies of martial arts students kept falling to the ground. Each of them had a head and 4 limbs separated. How could this be? Tong Yao's brother mumbled. On the other hand, Qin Wushuang frowned lightly and checked each corpse for clues. After he had checked 5 or 6 corpses, Qin Wushuang suddenly stopped and looked at that stone forest in the distance thoughtfully. He whispered, "It seems that someone was one step faster than me." Chapter 94. Tong Yao's little brother raised his head in surprise. "What do you mean?" Indistinctly, an ominous feeling emerged from his heart. Could it be? Qin Wushuang frowned. After a while, he revealed a trace of a happy smile. Good timing." "What timing? Could it be that you didn't see that a martial arts student from another area had already barged into our exam site? So fast. Even I want to see if this person has 3 heads and 6 arms." He crossed the site? Initially, Tong Yao's little brother had also thought of this point. However, he was unwilling to face it. For someone as strong as him, he could not accept it at the moment. From the beginning until now, he had only obtained 1 jade plate by relying on his own strength. However, this comrade of Prince Akaji had already collected 80 points. Initially, he thought that this should be the fastest speed. Perhaps this person would be the individual champion of this martial arts student exam. However, He didn't expect that there would be someone even faster. And he had even killed his way into their exam site. He could not help but feel a sense of crisis. As they continued to move forward, a few more martial arts students ran over from the other side. Although they were all wearing masks, from their eyes, it was obvious that they were filled with a strong sense of fear. When they saw Qin Wushuang and Tong Yao walking towards the direction of the stone forest, those martial arts students could not help but look at them. Their eyes were filled with confusion and even some ridicule. "Hey, you two, do you want to die?" A martial arts student with the number 7 written on his exam robe called out. Tong Yao's little brother stopped and asked curiously, "What do you mean?" It seems that an external examinee had come to that stone forest. He is extremely tyrannical. He had issued a statement and asked all martial arts students from our exam site, regardless of whether they had a plate or not, to report to him and hand over the plates he needed. Or else he would kill one person every 4 hours. He would stop until he had killed all the examinees from our exam site. Tong Yao's little brother was stunned. There was such a tyrannical and bloodthirsty person? After Qin Wushuang had heard his words, he also felt it was inconceivable. These martial arts students were all under 20 years old. It could be said that most of them had not experienced true cruel killing. It wasn't difficult to kill a person, but it was difficult to maintain this bloodthirsty mentality. I say, shouldn't all the martial arts students in this exam site unite? That number 7 martial arts student clenched his fist and raised his arm to shout. Those martial arts students who had fled in this direction also stopped when they heard these words. Unity? How can we unite? That's right. Don't forget that there is also competition between us. Who can guarantee that we won't shoot each other in the back? That's right. I think everyone should just look out for themselves. Unity and whatnot are not feasible at all. After they had finished speaking, these martial arts students rushed forward in a hurry. Obviously, as far as they were concerned, the stone forest had already become a dangerous area, and the further they were from that place, the safer they would be. Number 7 sighed when he saw that everyone was not in the mood to cooperate. He could not help but glance back with a trace of fear in his eyes. Then, he looked at Qin Wushuang and Tong Yao's little brother. Go your separate ways. If the two of you don't have enough strength, I advise you not to go. There are still some martial arts students who are unwilling to give up. They plan to compete with the foreign examinees. However, I guess they will all have a miserable ending. After he had finished speaking, he shook his head and ran away quickly. What do you think? Qin Wushuang looked at Tong Yao's little brother and wanted to see his decision. You decide. Tong Yao's little brother emphasized, if you say go, then we will go. Okay, then you follow behind me. Don't show that we are in the same group, and don't get too far away. Okay. After these two had finished their discussion, they continued to move forward. One after the other, their figures disappeared into the stone forest. Indeed, this stone forest was spacious. As soon as these two entered, they instantly felt as if they had entered a devil's palace. Qin Wushuang shuttled through the grotesque rock. Each step he took was very careful. After walking for about 15 minutes, suddenly, a mournful cry came from the depths of the stone forest. This miserable cry was sharp and ear-piercing as if it was uttered before death. It made one's hair stand on end. Bastard, just kill me! Ha ha, kill you! A gloomy voice leisurely sounded. I finally understand. Each of you are stubborn. You won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Tell me, where is your jade plate? I really got it. I only have that jade plate. Didn't you already take it? I didn't get the number 32 you wanted, and I never saw it. What about number 19? You also never saw it? That gloomy voice continued to press him. No, I really didn't see it. Even if you kill me, I can't give it to you. Apparently, this martial arts student was suffering some cruel punishment. Each time he spoke, one could feel his teeth chattering. Even his voice carried a strong trembling. After Tong Yao's little brother heard his words, he instantly felt waves of coldness on his back. Number 32, number 19? These two jade pendants were in his arms at this very moment. Qin Wushuang glanced at him with a smile. However, Tong Yao's little brother was not afraid. He tried hard to suppress the fear in his heart and did not dare to make a sound. He crouched behind a giant rock and hid his body completely in the grass. However, Qin Wushuang had another thought. The other party was looking for number 19 and 32. Obviously, he must be an examinee from the foreign area. I thought I was already fast enough. I didn't expect someone with an even more monstrous speed would come. It seems I must not let down my guard in this exam. Qin Wushuang twitched his mouth into a smile. I will go over for a bit. Before Tong Yao's little brother could figure out what was going on, he only felt a blur in front of his eyes. Qin Wushuang's figure had already disappeared from his sight. Could it be he is going to challenge that examinee from the foreign area? As soon as he thought about it, his pride as a martial artist made him feel that he could not hide here. Since these two had already formed an alliance, and they had already announced that they would act together today, it would be unreasonable if they stopped when they met a strong opponent. When he thought here, he jumped out and followed. About 400 or 500 meters away, deep inside the stone forest, there was a high platform. A foreign examinee was sitting on top of a giant stone platform. He was torturing a martial arts student who was hanging in the air. When he saw Qin Wushuang walking up, that foreign examinee was slightly surprised. He spat out the grass root in his hand and smiled evilly. Another one who is not afraid of death has come to me. From afar, Qin Wushuang had already seen clearly that the team number behind this martial arts student was Team 13. His own number was the same as Tong Yao's little brother, 19. When that foreign examinee saw Qin Wushuang's number, he felt slightly depressed. He shook his head and mumbled, "Darn it, number 6! How come it's not number 19 and 32? Then, he licked his lips in a bloodthirsty manner. Who cares what number he is? If he comes to me, it saves me the time to find him. When he thought here, he glanced at Qin Wushuang coldly and yelled with a gloomy voice, "Kid, if you don't have the jade plate, you will die miserably." Qin Wushuang laughed lightly and said leisurely, "It doesn't matter if you have the jade plate or not, you will not leave this area." "HM?" That foreign examinee raised his eyebrow and started to size Qin Wushuang from head to toe. Under such circumstances, an opponent who could maintain such calmness could not be ignored. The family of this martial arts student had produced assassins for generations. When he was born, he had received the teachings of countless elite warriors from his family. Influenced by what he saw and heard, he had already cultivated a bloodthirsty and gloomy temperament. When ordinary martial arts students stood before him, they would fear him in terms of temperament. Plus, with his outstanding temperament as an assassin, he was like a fish in water in this exam site. In a short 4 or 5 days, he had accumulated 80 points and became the first martial arts student to reach 80 points. Then, he crossed over to the third exam site where Qin Wushuang was, and almost half of the martial arts students in Team 13 had died in his hand. Indeed, he had killed people like scything flax. He raised his palm and slashed the throat of that martial arts student who had been tortured by him. Another life had been harvested. Qin Wushuang frowned. He did not like this person's style. During the exam, it was unavoidable to kill. However, if one took pleasure in killing, then it was not worth it. Do you see? He is your end. That examinee raised his palm and blew on the side of his lips. Then, he pointed at Qin Wushuang leisurely. Could it be you can only rely on killing to hide your cowardice? Qin Wushuang asked back coldly. Stop with the nonsense. If you have the skills, you can kill me right now. You are number 6, right? I have a few jade plates that are valuable to you. If you can kill me, they are yours. Is that so? Suddenly, Qin Wushuang twitched the corner of his mouth. Then I will not hold back. As soon as he finished speaking, his body had already moved. That foreign examinee only felt a blur in front of his eyes, as if the other party had suddenly disappeared from his original place. The speed was so fast that it almost surpassed his naked eyes. In the next moment, he already felt a wave of strong murderous intent coming from next to him. He, who had received more than a dozen years of assassin training, immediately felt a strong sense of crisis. Just as he was about to retreat, Qin Wushuang had already arrived before him. His palm had already pressed against his chest. However, he had not used his strength yet. With a smile on the corner of his mouth, there was a kind of disdain and disgust. His eyes were full of contempt. How is it possible? That foreign examinee's heart was in turmoil as he kept retreating. However, no matter how much he retreated, Qin Wushuang's palm always followed his chest as if it could be stretched out at will. It was like a blood chain from hell that hung in front of his neck at all times. A sense of powerlessness, an indescribable sense of powerlessness instantly emerged from his heart. He still found it hard to believe. How could this scene happen? Chapter 95. If he was facing an upper-level warrior of the genuine force, he could still accept this scene. After all, it was a fatal difference. However, this was a martial arts student exam and a competition between martial arts students. Not to mention, before this exam, he had been full of ambition. His goal was to aim for first place. The first exam also went smoothly. Within 5 days, he had obtained the qualification to cross-site. Everything was progressing according to his plan. When he arrived at the new exam site, he was not familiar with the terrain. Thus, he had used extreme methods to intimidate the martial arts students in this exam site and achieve his goal of gaining points quickly. Although his actions hadn't brought him many points so far, it was obvious that it had a deterrent effect. He believed that as time went on, he would make the martial arts students in this exam site hand over the jade plate. However, just when he was full of ambition, high-spirited, and fighting spirit, he suddenly realized that there was always someone better than him. However, there was no such thing as a regret medicine in this world. The higher you climbed, the harder you would fall. Now, let me ask you, do you have the jade plates with you? Qin Wushuang asked leisurely. Suddenly, that outsider exam-taker laughed and spat with a vicious tone. You win. As long as you let me go, I will immediately tell you where the plates are. Qin Wushuang smiled lightly. You want to live? Nonsense, who doesn't? Then when you killed them, did you ever think that they also wanted to live? Them? Their skills were not as good as yours, so their deaths were not regrettable. Besides, they were stubborn and did not cooperate. They also did not leave a way out for themselves. Is that so? Qin Wushuang said with a cold tone. When they fell into the hands of someone like you, would they have a way out? Stop with the nonsense. How could those trash be compared to me? If you want the jade plates, then you cannot kill me. Or else you will not get the plates. Indeed, you guys cannot be compared to each other. Qin Wushuang sighed. In my eyes, you are indeed 100 times lower than them. After he finished speaking, he pressed his palm against the man's chest. This palm strike was a hidden force. It didn't seem to have a monstrous aura, but the force was all directed at the opponent's bones. Bang! With a dull thud, the outsider's body was sent flying more than 10 meters away. He slammed heavily onto a huge rock and lay on the ground. His body was completely twisted into a ball and he was dead. Tong Yao's younger brother happened to walk up to the stage. When he saw this scene, he was dumbfounded. Come on up. Qin Wushuang called out, the jade pendant must be with him. This guy is trying to play petty tricks with me. Isn't he a little too cheap? Tong Yao's younger brother hurried forward and untied the person's luggage. What a guy! He took out 14 or 15 jade tokens at once. Number 19, number 32, number 9, number 29, number 39, number 49. It had everything. Even Qin Wushuang couldn't help but admire him. This guy was really an expert at collecting. In just a few days, he was actually able to collect all the valuable jade tokens. The remaining dozens of jade tokens were all 2-point jade tokens to that person. But there were 2 of them which were valuable to Qin Wushuang. One was number 45 and the other was number 16. Tong Yao's younger brother looked at the jade tokens eagerly. His eyes were full of desire. How should they divide it? According to the previous agreement, they would take each other's valuable jade tokens. But these jade tokens in front of him were obviously more beneficial to him. Almost all of them were high-point jade tokens. If these high-point jade tokens fell into his hands, they would be more than 100 points. But did he dare to accept them? During the whole process, he didn't do anything. A gentleman's word is as good as a whip. For the high-point jade tokens, we each take what we need. As for the remaining jade tokens, we'll divide them equally. No, no, no. Tong Yao's younger brother was obviously a little ashamed. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, I only need 80 jade tokens. The rest is yours. Feeling that he hadn't finished speaking, he added, this time it's an unexpected windfall. I didn't do anything. You want to cross regions? Qin Wushuang suddenly asked. With 80 points, why not give it a try? Qin Wushuang shook his head. If I were you, I would take all the high-point jade tokens here and find a place to hide. The timing, location, and people might not be beneficial to you if you were to cross over. You may be able to cross regions with more than 100 points, but you may not be able to guarantee that you can complete the trial with more than 100 points. Tong Yao's younger brother gently bit his lips. Clearly, he was thinking about Qin Wushuang's suggestion. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the other party's words made sense. Cross regions? What did he have? Outstanding strength? Or special skills? Other than his intelligence-gathering ability, his martial arts, movement, and concealment skills were not top-notch. If he crossed regions, he would lose his geographical advantage. His intelligence-gathering ability would also be useless. Although the other party's words were more direct, they were crude but not crude. Take these jade tokens. Let's part here. Qin Wushuang went up and took the 2 high-point jade tokens. Then, he symbolically took 4 2-point jade tokens. After putting them away, he said, Do you remember the place described by number 25 last time? Tong Yao's younger brother nodded and looked at Qin Wushuang in confusion. The terrain there is very advantageous for concealment. Moreover, there are many traps set up there. With a little use, you can completely protect yourself. A month's time will pass very quickly. Qin Wushuang knew from Tong Yao that her younger brother had a very strong self-esteem. If he directly stopped him from crossing regions, he might feel that his face was damaged. With such a hint, if he was smart enough, he should know what to do. Tong Yao's younger brother was also in a dilemma. Before he left, the family elders and his sister had warned him not to be greedy and to fight steadily. Even if he had the opportunity to collect 80 jade tokens, he should not rashly cross regions. Now, the person in front of him had about 10 jade tokens left. Among these 10 jade tokens, 6 of them were high-point jade tokens, which were directly equivalent to 70 points. As for the other 4 2-point jade tokens, he had a total of 78 points. Adding the 62 points that he originally obtained from the 5 jade tokens, he had a total of 140 points. With such a high number of points, although it was not enough to fight for first place, within the Redwood Royal City, it was guaranteed that he would be in the top 10. He might even be able to make it to the top 5. With this powerful expert in front of me, there is no need to hope for first place. Obviously, he did not treat me as a competitor. Otherwise, he would not be so generous as to leave so many jade tokens for me. If I do not know when to stop and cross regions, it might really be like what he said. These jade tokens might change hands and become someone else's. It is easy to conquer the country, but difficult to defend it. If I can bring these 140 points out of the training region, my results will definitely not be bad. Thinking this way, Tong Yao's younger brother made his choice. He raised his head. All right, if I continue to be unreasonable, it will be my fault. My surname is Tong, and my name is Tong Yen. I am a disciple of an aristocratic family from the Redwood Royal City's Green Tree region. In the future, if there is a chance, please come to my Green Tree State as a guest. I will do my best to entertain you. That's easy. Haha, my surname is Qin. I am from South Cloud State. South Cloud State. Tong Yen suddenly remembered something. Qin? Could it be that you are Qin Wushuang, an offspring of the wealthy class Qin family in River County? That's me. Tong Yen finally realized the light and patted his head. I see. I am so stupid, I should have thought of it earlier. Haha, in my Redwood Royal City, besides Qin Wushuang, where else could we find such a powerful martial arts student? During the wealthy class competition in River County, Qin Wushuang had killed a Stage 4 genuine force elder of the Su family with one palm strike. Although the related parties had suppressed the news, to the Tong family, who specialized in intelligence, it was impossible for them not to know about it. Tong Yen bowed to the ground and said from the bottom of his heart, I am so lucky to have witnessed your powerful performance. I am completely convinced. The individual champion of this smelting trial should belong to none other than Brother Qin. Here, I wish your family to become a king soon and achieve meteoric success. Qin Wushuang smiled lightly. Thank you for your auspicious words, good luck. After he had completed Tong Yao's request, Qin Wushuang no longer had any worries. His thoughts were clear and he set his goal, to cross regions. Chapter 96. Today's second update has arrived, and there will be another update around 10 at night. These 2 days there have been a lot of discussions in the book review section. Regardless of whether the readers liked or disliked the exam, the next chapter will be over. If you don't like the exam process, then enjoy the result. Haha, the results are also very exciting. Besides, the recommendation tickets did not seem to work today. Could it be because I did not shout? At the edge of the exam site, Qin Wushuang found the emissary from the Zhen Wu holy place who was in charge of receiving people. How come one went in and another one came out? That emissary mumbled to himself, this number 3 exam site is really lively. Didn't one just go in yesterday? He glanced at Qin Wushuang and laughed. You want to cross sites? Yes. Qin Wushuang nodded. Please show me your jade plates. That emissary's tone was kind as he spread out his hands at Qin Wushuang and said, Your entire exam site is very lively. Currently, there were only 2 trial zones that had crossed zones. One entered your training area, while you, on the other hand, have to leave your training area. I must say, the other martial arts students in your site are very unfortunate. Qin Wushuang presented all his jade plates, including the 6 plates he had taken from that foreign examinee. That emissary checked them one by one and accumulated the points according to Qin Wushuang's exam number. After he had finished counting the jade plates from the number 3 exam site, he picked up one of the plates he had taken from that foreign examinee. That emissary was obviously stunned and revealed a surprised expression. This jade plate is not from your site? Qin Wushuang shrugged. Didn't the rules say that all jade plates from all exam sites give the same amount of points? It's the same. That emissary immediately nodded. This way, the first martial arts student to cross sites no longer exists. Qin Wushuang smiled lightly as a silent agreement. Okay. The goal of crossing sites is only for those exam sites that have not crossed yet. Up until now, only one martial arts student had crossed from the number 13 exam site. However, it seems that you have already taken care of him. Therefore, other than the 13th trial zone, you can draw lots to decide the other trial zones. The results of the draw came out. Qin Wushuang's next trial area was the 12th district. Young man, since the first martial arts student to cross is no longer here, you are the first one. I wish you all the best. The emissary of the Zhen Wu Holy Land gave his blessings enthusiastically. Thanks. Take this cross-district introduction plate and walk out of the training area. Someone will send you to the 12th district. As expected, as soon as Qin Wushuang walked out of the third trial area, there was someone in charge of receiving him. He brought him to the edge of the 12th trial area and said, "The trial rules haven't changed. Once you've accumulated 80 points, you can continue to cross areas. Let's go in. The range of activity is also 50 li." Qin Wushuang nodded and slowly walked into the trial area. Outside the Sobbing Sky mountain range, the heads of the Zhen Wu holy place of the Bayou country had gathered at one of the campsites. For this exam, the Bayou country had mobilized the entire country and placed great importance on it. They did not hesitate to offer the highest reward of being bestowed the title of king. It was enough to show the importance of the entire country. Currently, almost all the heads of the Zhen Wu holy place had gathered outside the Sobbing Sky mountain range. And among these heads, the 4 great honored warriors held the highest position. Everyone, can you guess what the information from the third trial zone is? The great honored warrior among the 4 great honored warriors, that purple-robed honored warrior who had announced the rules before the start of the exam, said with a smile. Great honored warrior, what happened? Could it be that martial arts student from the 13th has completed another 80 points? Another red-haired honored warrior asked curiously. Logically, it's impossible to be this fast. It's only been less than a day. According to our estimation, it would take at least 5 or 6 days to accumulate 80 points. That martial arts student from the 13th exam site had crossed in such a short time. Although he had the strength, he also had the luck. This time, it's impossible for him to arrive at a new site so quickly. I estimate that he would need at least 10 days. Another honored warrior with ragged clothes and a sloppy appearance spoke. Great honored warrior, don't keep us in suspense. Could it be a martial arts student from the 3rd exam site has also appeared? The last honored warrior was a beautiful woman with a gentle appearance. Dressed in a pink palace dress, it almost made people think that she was a member of the royal family. That purple-robed great honored warrior stroked his long beard and laughed. 4th sister is so thoughtful. However, indeed, a martial arts student from the 3rd exam site has appeared. The eyes of the other 3 honored warriors lit up. Each of them revealed a joyful expression. Especially that red-haired 2nd honored warrior, he could not help but rub his palms and laugh strangely. Great honored warrior, this time's result had greatly exceeded our expectations. Looking at this speed, this time's seedling should be exceptional. Perhaps he could beat the Great Wu. The purple-robed great honored warrior said in a low voice. I haven't finished speaking. This martial arts student who crossed from the 3rd exam site is carrying a jade plate that does not belong to the 3rd exam site. As soon as he said these words, the others could not understand it at first. After a while, they finally made a detour, and they all revealed astonished expressions. A jade plate that does not belong to the 3rd exam site? This way, it's from the 13th exam site? That's right. The purple-robed great honored warrior narrowed his eyes and smiled. This way, the first martial arts student who crossed had already died at his hands? Of course. After the purple-robed great honored warrior had finished speaking, suddenly, he laughed. Let's see what kind of performance this martial arts student from the third exam site will have when he arrives at the next site. The other 3 honored warriors looked at each other and apparently, they were full of praise. Earlier, the demonic performance of that martial arts student from the 13th exam site had left a deep impression on them. And now, that martial arts student from the 13th exam site had been killed on the first day he had entered the third exam site. Suddenly, that beautiful honored warrior remembered something and asked, "Great honored warrior, did that martial arts student from the third exam site have the same number as the one from the 13th exam site?" "No." The purple-robed great honored warrior shook his head with emotion. The jade plate he had shown had already surpassed 80 points. Strangely, that 13th martial arts student had carried a dozen jade plates, and this martial arts student from the third exam site had only shown 6. Perhaps he had kept some trump cards. The other 3 honored warriors sighed in a low voice. After he had walked into the exam site, Qin Wushuang was not in a rush to go deeper. He decided to start from the edge and familiarize himself with the terrain. This time, without the worry of Tong Yao's little brother, he decided to change his strategy and act more decisively. While he was walking, Qin Wushuang suddenly stopped. His ears twitched slightly as he smiled lightly. "Stop hiding, come out." With a hideous laugh, a martial arts student walked out from the dark. He sized Qin Wushuang up with cold eyes. "Foreign examinee? HM? How did you discover me?" That martial arts student had always been confident in his concealment ability. Unexpectedly, Qin Wushuang had exposed him. Qin Wushuang was not interested in his words. He was only interested in the exam site number on that person's body. 12th exam site, number 36. The ending digits were the same. That martial arts student's gaze stopped on Qin Wushuang's exam robe and also revealed a joyful expression. From time to time, he would hide at the edge of this area. His goal was to rob foreign examinees. Although, foreign examinees might not come, and they might not come this early. Every day, he would wait here 3 times as a routine. Unexpectedly, he had waited until today. And it was an examinee with the same ending digits. Since this foreign examinee had obtained the qualification to cross sites, it meant that he had already collected 80 points. Since the ending digits were the same, the high points plates on this person's body had mostly overlapped with the high points plates he needed. When he thought here, evil thoughts emerged in his mind. Leave the person but not the card, leave the card but not the person. You choose. That martial arts student smiled eerily. Qin Wushuang nodded. I choose, leave neither the person nor the card. While the words were still on the tip of his tongue, his body had already rushed forward. Before that martial arts student could figure out what was going on, he only felt his vision blurred and his neck tightened. Suddenly, the soles of his feet left the ground and he was lifted up high. Qin Wushuang pulled the rattan from the side of the tree. In a few moves, he wrapped that martial arts student into a giant dumpling and hung him on the tree. My principle is, those who obey me will live, and those who defy me will die. Qin Wushuang said lightly, Now, I will ask you a question, and you will answer. It's your business how you answer. And it's my business how I deal with you. If you don't want to be strangled to death because of a lie, you must make sure that each of your words does not contain any lies. That martial arts student was abnormally frightened. He could never have imagined that. The combat power he had always been proud of would not be able to withstand a single blow from this person. Indeed, a foreign examinee was not to be trifled with. Inwardly, he wailed and nodded. Cooperate, I will cooperate with all my strength. I will answer whatever you ask. Before the threat of death, all self-esteem and courage were pale. Qin Wushuang smiled lightly and asked, First question, how many jade plates do you have, and what are the numbers? Qidian website welcomes all readers to read. The newest, fastest, and most popular series are all original works at Qidian. Chapter 97. 6. That martial arts student did not even dare to blink his eyes. Indeed, there were 6 pieces in his bag. However, what surprised Qin Wushuang was that among these 6 pieces, 3 of them were high points to him. Among them, the number 6 jade plate was among them. It was worth 30 points. The other 2 high points were numbers 16 and 46. The remaining 3 were all 2-point jade plates. Qin Wushuang took all of them without hesitation. Earlier, he already had 81 points from the 3rd exam site. Later, he had taken 6 jade plates from that cross-site examiner. 1 for 20 points, 1 for 5 points, and 4 for 2 points. In total, he had 33 points. In fact, he had reached a total of 114 points. And this point-giving boy in front of him just so happened to give him 46 points. Adding the 3 together, it was exactly 160 points, no more, no less. Again, he was qualified to cross-site. A trace of a smile emerged from the corner of Qin Wushuang's mouth. He thought inwardly, what a coincidence. In other words, there were only 30 points left in this trial area. It's not worth it to stay here too long for 30 points. That gift-giving martial arts student saw Qin Wushuang stop asking after he had searched his jade plates. That smile on the corner of his mouth made his hair stand on end. He thought that Qin Wushuang was going to kill him after he had taken the plates. His eyes were filled with despair. Currently, Qin Wushuang was in a great mood. He slightly loosened his grip, and that martial arts student fell from the tree. You are not going to kill me? That martial arts student found it somewhat unbelievable. Why would I kill you? Qin Wushuang was in a good mood and had no intention to kill. I already said, those who follow me will prosper, and those who oppose me will die. You are very cooperative. At least, you did not lie about the jade plates. Thus, I am not going to kill you. You are not afraid that I will take revenge? Or destroy your exam in the entire area? That martial arts student did not seem to feel reassured. Who said I'm going to train in your entire district? Qin Wushuang leisurely smiled. Secondly, even if I wanted to train in the entire trial area, do you think you have the strength to destroy me? That martial arts student was extremely depressed. After much thought, he could not think of a way. The difference in strength was too obvious. All right, I took your jade token, but I don't want to take away your hope. There's still a long way to go in the trial, so your jade token number and the corresponding jade token haven't come out yet. You still have a chance. After Qin Wushuang finished speaking, he turned around and left. There was no longer any need for him to stay in this trial area. He wanted to cross over again. You applied to cross zones again? The receptionist of Zone 12 was petrified at the sight of Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang finished counting all the jade cards. It was exactly 160 points, no more, no less. What a monster! The emissary sighed. Speaking of which, didn't you just go in? Luck, this time it's all luck. Qin Wushuang said modestly. Even if it's luck, it's monstrous. After the inspection, he gave him the introduction plate and let Qin Wushuang draw again to decide the next exam area. When the result of the draw came out, it was Zone 23. After all the procedures were completed, Qin Wushuang was sent to a brand new area again. Outside the Sobbing Sky mountain range, that great honored warrior held the information he had just received. His eyes almost could not turn around. His mouth was open so wide that a big steamed bun could be stuffed in. Great honored warrior, what's new? A monster! The great honored warrior mumbled. That little guy, number 6 martial arts student from the 3rd exam area, crossed again. What? Crossed again? Didn't he just go in? The purple-robed great honored warrior also found it hard to believe as he said, I also find it hard to believe. Even if us old guys went in to participate, I am afraid it would take some time to find those jade plates, right? But he really did bring out the jade tablet from the 12th trial area. Monster, monster. Great honored warrior, investigate this martial arts student's information. I can't help but be curious. The red-haired second honored warrior was rather impatient. Yes, investigate, great honored warrior. The other two honored warriors also looked forward to it. The purple-robed great honored warrior was rather calm as he shook his head with a smile. Don't rush, don't rush. Before the exam ends, it would be more interesting to keep the suspense. The other three honored warriors were extremely respectful to this purple-robed great honored warrior as they smiled helplessly. Since the great honored warrior had said it, it would not be appropriate for them to say anything. Just wait. Just as the great honored warrior had said, the exam days were still long. After entering the 23rd exam area, Qin Wushuang had gradually grasped the knack of it. The first thing he did when he went in was to search for number 6 and number 45 martial arts student from this exam area. As long as he took care of these two martial arts students, these 2 jade plates would at most be worth 5 points to the other martial arts student. It would not mean much. Plus, with Qin Wushuang's series of methods, the process went smoothly. On the 3rd day after entering the 23rd exam area, Qin Wushuang had captured these 2 martial arts students. In these 3 days, Qin Wushuang did not waste his time as he had acquired 8 jade plates. On the same day, Qin Wushuang set up a stall and started a fair exchange. Along with his thunderous methods, he had killed 3 or 4 martial arts students who had tried to fish in troubled waters. Of course, to those martial arts students who were sincere in their exchange, he had given them a fair exchange. He had taken his 2-point plates to exchange for those with higher points. Using both the carrot and the stick, the effect was surprisingly good. Since the first one had stepped out to eat the crabs, naturally the second one would step out to eat the crabs. Another 3 days had passed, and Qin Wushuang had successfully acquired 80 points. He had completed the breakthrough of the 3rd exam area. Again, he had applied to cross areas. At this moment, it was only the 11th day of the trial. Outside the Sobbing Sky mountain range, the mood of the 4 honored warriors could no longer be described with the word astonishment. For your information, in these 11 days, only 3 martial arts students had crossed from other areas. And Qin Wushuang had crossed 3 areas in a row and entered the 4th exam area in these short 11 days. Oh my God, if this continues, wouldn't this kid have crossed 8 or 9 areas by the end of the exam? That red-haired honored warrior clicked his tongue and praised. Honestly, if I were to accompany these martial arts students to the exam, I am afraid I would not be faster than him. That 3rd honored warrior also sighed. The most valuable thing is that although this kid is decisive in killing, he would never kill the innocent. As long as they did not stop him from getting the plates and did not covet his plates, he would not kill them. Compared to those martial arts students who only relied on killing, he has reached a higher stage. At such a young age, he has the demeanor of a grandmaster. It was the 4th honored warrior's evaluation of Qin Wushuang. The purple-robed honored warrior nodded and said with an expectant tone, "Perhaps our Bayou country will have an unprecedented genius. Crossing 3 areas in a row, perhaps this result would be enough to get first place in this exam. If he can pass 5 areas, I believe that among all the middle-ranking subordinate countries, this result will be the best." On the 15th day of the exam, Qin Wushuang had applied to cross areas for the 4th time. On the 20th day, the 5th time, on the 24th day, the 6th time, on the 28th day, the 7th time, each time Qin Wushuang had crossed areas, he had deeply stimulated the nerves of the 4 honored warriors and tested their limit. Especially the red-haired 2nd honored warrior. In this 1 month, he had already muttered the word monstrous countless times. Indeed, as he had muttered, he had crossed areas 7 times. Including his own area, he had stirred up the 8 exam areas into a pool of muddy water. Inwardly, the 4 honored warriors were extremely pleased with this result. Let's not talk about the overall results of this trial. Just based on this individual result, even those high-ranked subordinate countries wouldn't be able to achieve such a monstrous result. This could no longer be described with the word monstrous. They almost could not help but hope that the exam would end immediately. Then, they would investigate the files of this monstrous martial arts student. They would satisfy their curiosity that had been suppressed for almost a month. Fortunately, as they had expected, the exam had entered the last day. Great warrior, I don't know which territory this number 6 martial arts student from the number 3 exam area belongs to. I think that because of his monstrous results, the territory he belongs to must have a great advantage in terms of team points. Of course, his result alone could almost catch up with the total score of the top 5. In this trial, there were only a total of 18 people who had managed to cross over. Besides him, 4 other martial arts students had crossed twice. Regardless, besides this monstrous genius, the overall result is quite impressive. The tone of the purple-robed great warrior was full of expectation. Okay, time is almost up. Pass down the order. Ask the person in charge of each exam area to be 120% focused. Prepare to tally the scores. We will not allow any mistakes. Whoever makes a mistake will be responsible. The purple-robed great warrior stood up and said leisurely, I believe that when the martial saint knows that such a monstrous martial arts student has appeared, he would be extremely happy, right? Ha ha ha. P.S. This book will be on the shelves in 2 hours. This is the last public chapter. Being on the shelves means that a portion of the public readers will leave. When Li Tian thought here, inwardly, he felt extremely sad and reluctant. In 1.5 months, I don't know how many times I have been touched by the support of my brothers. Now, because of being on the shelves, I am destined to see a portion of readers leave. Heartache. However, there is nothing I can do. If the author wants to survive, being on the shelves is the only choice. If you want this book to have a better result, it will depend on whether my dear VIP readers will buy it or not. After being on the shelves in the early hours of the morning, a new VIP chapter will be updated. Please support me with a subscription. Qidian website welcomes all readers to read. The newest, fastest, and hottest serial works are all at Qidian. Chapter 98. After calculating the time, there was less than 2 hours left until the 1-month exam. Qin Wushuang leaned against a giant tree leisurely. His mind was already extremely relaxed. He had already finished the exam ahead of time, and sat here to wait for it to end. After a month of hard work, Qin Wushuang had gained a lot. In total, he had crossed 7 sites. Plus his own site, it was equivalent to participating in the competition for the jade plates in 8 exam sites. In the first 7 sites, he had accumulated at least 80 points. Although only 2 or 3 days had passed in this last exam site, Qin Wushuang had acquired 6 jade plates, 1 20-point plate, 2 5-point plates, and 3 2-point plate. In total, he had accumulated 36 points. Plus the points from the previous 7 sites, he had accumulated a total of 600 points. Haha, no more and no less, 600 points. This is a lucky score. I wonder how the other martial arts students are doing? I thought that not many could get 300 points, not to mention 600. Qin Wushuang still had this much confidence. He didn't participate in this trial because of the content of the trial. Initially, he wanted to use this opportunity to get in touch with higher-level existences. As for the reward for being number 1, it was an unexpected surprise. Considering the rich reward, of course, Qin Wushuang would not allow it to fall to the side. Following 3 sharp whistles, it had spread across all 50 exam sites in the entire Sobbing Sky mountain range. The exam had ended. According to the rules, after the exam, martial arts students were not allowed to attack or steal from each other. Those who violated the rules would have their grades revoked. This way, it would prevent martial arts students from taking advantage of the loopholes and attacking other martial arts students when the exam had ended. The end did not mean that everyone would leave like a swarm of bees. The first step was for the martial arts students who had crossed sites to return to their own site. It would be easier to calculate the result. Qin Wushuang jumped down from the tree and walked out of this exam site. Under the guidance of the relevant people, he returned to the initial third exam site. Currently, most of the martial arts students had gathered at the edge of the exam site. When they saw Qin Wushuang walking in from the outside, they let out a low sigh filled with admiration and admiration. After all, most of the martial arts students who stayed here did not have the qualifications to cross over. Being able to cross regions meant that one's strength was superior to others, and their results would definitely be better than others. It was only natural for him to win sighs from the crowd. At first glance, Qin Wushuang saw number 19, who was Tong Yao's younger brother, standing in the corner. The two of them exchanged a look tacitly, but neither of them spoke. Qin Wushuang was very happy for him. In the past, 50 martial arts students had entered the exam site, and after a month had passed, including the wounded who had lost an arm or a leg, there were less than 30 people in the third exam site. The competition was extremely intense. All of you, listen up. Come out of each trial area one by one according to your serial number. Do not rush or mess up the order. Listen to me call the number. After 3 calls, you still don't come out. The next call is on, and so on. Number 1 martial arts student, come out. Although this procedure was complicated, it was to protect the results and privacy of each martial arts student. It would ensure that the grudges from the exam site would not be brought into the real world. After taking off the exam robe and mask, everyone returned to their original appearance. Everything inside the exam site had vanished like smoke in thin air. And in the end, when the results were announced, the serial number of the exam site would not be announced, nor the exact jade plate. They would only announce the corresponding score of each martial arts student. Qin Wushuang was number 6. Among the 5 people before him, 2 had already died. Thus, it was soon his turn. Fortunately, that messenger in charge of registering Qin Wushuang was stunned when he saw Qin Wushuang continuously taking out jade plates. He almost forgot to count. He knew that Qin Wushuang had crossed over, but he did not expect that he had crossed over so many sites. After all, he was only in charge of the third exam site. For now, he did not know the situation of the other exam site. It seems that the individual champion will not escape from the exam site I am in charge of. That messenger also showed a face full of surprise and felt deeply honored. As the person in charge of the third exam site, I think I can congratulate you in advance. Qin Wushuang smiled lightly. Thank you. Did you check everything? No problem, 600 points. My God, this result is too terrifying. That messenger smacked his lips and said, Take off your exam robe and mask. Then, follow the passage and gather at the open space outside. When all the martial arts students have finished checking the number of people, the great honored warrior has something to say. Qin Wushuang did not want to be special. After he had gone through all the procedures, he left through the passage with the acceptance certificate. When he arrived at the distribution center, not many people had come out from the major exam site. After a moment, the number of people had gradually increased. He still stood at the distribution center of the Redwood Royal City. Inwardly, he did not feel much emotion. He only thought, I wonder how Shi Yang and that crazy girl from the Yun family did. Since they had come together and were from the same hometown in River County, Qin Wushuang would naturally feel happy for them if they could achieve a good result. While he was thinking, Qin Wushuang already saw Shi Yang walking over from the opposite side. From his expression, he could not see any gains or losses. When he saw Qin Wushuang, Shi Yang walked over and asked, How are your results? Not bad, how about you? Haha, I'm also not bad. However, if my not bad could reach 1/3 of your not bad, I would be overjoyed. De Shiyang replied with a rare humorous tone. Then, he remembered something and asked again, You should have crossed sights, right? Yes, I did. Did you? De Shiyang sighed with pity. I only managed to accumulate 80 points on the second last day. Considering the time limit, I still tried to be safe and did not apply to cross-sight. It was the right choice. If he only had 2 days left, even if he crossed sights, it would be difficult to achieve anything. After all, without overwhelming strength, it would take at least 2 days to get used to the new map and familiarize with it. Rather than taking the risk, it would be better to hold on to the results he had already achieved. Missy Yun still hasn't come out? De Shiyang looked around. Gradually, more and more people gathered around. Martial arts students from South Cloud State had also gradually gathered together. After a moment, Simon Xing also walked out from the exam passage. Although Shiman Xing tried his best to restrain his emotions, there was still a bit of excitement in his expression that had never been there before. Brother Wushuang, you came out early. How were your results? As soon as Simon Xing had arrived, of course, martial arts students from South Cloud State had swarmed over. It's still passable, it won't drag our South Cloud State down. Qin Wushuang did not want to be too high-profile. Before the results came out, there was no need for him to show off. Since the results were out, he did not need to show off. The results would speak for themselves. Haha, Brother Wushuang, what are you talking about? If you drag us down, then South Cloud State will have no thighs to rely on. Simon Xing joked with a smile. Young Master Xing, you seem to be in a good mood. You must have succeeded in crossing sights, right? Yes, this time it went smoothly. I crossed in about half a month. Unfortunately, in the end, I did not collect the second 80 points. It would be great if I could cross again. Simon Xing was somewhat regretful. A few martial arts students from the city who were familiar with Simon Xing all asked Simon Xing to tell them his specific result. Simon Xing could not refuse and could only say, Thanks to everyone's love, this time, I got 152 points. Wow, young Master Xing, you are good. You almost crossed for the second time. Woo woo woo, I only got 32 points, so depressing. Haha, I did get more than 50 points, I just don't know if I can make it. A group of martial arts students discussed animatedly. They were extremely envious of Simon Xing's result. At this time, Qin Wushuang saw Yun Qinyan walk out alone from the same passage. Her expression was not as optimistic as usual and appeared to have lost her soul. Qin Wushuang and De Shiyang looked at each other. Inwardly, they thought that for sure Yun Qingyan's results were average. Missy Yun, what's wrong? Before Qin Wushuang had spoken, a martial arts student from another county had asked first. Yun Qingyan's eyes turned red as she cried loudly. Just when everyone looked at each other in dismay, Yun Qingyan suddenly wiped her eyes and stopped crying. Okay, I am fine. Isn't it just a bad result? It's not a loss if I come out alive. Yes, it's a win if you come out alive. I heard that in this trial, 40% of the participants died in some of the more tragic trial zones. Damn, this is too tragic, right? In our area, I counted when I came out. Only 5 or 6 people were missing. This way, it's still peaceful. You too, how are your results? I have brought shame to River County. Yun Qinyan tore that acceptance certificate into pieces. F***CK your acceptance certificate. In 1 month, I only got 1 jade plate and it's only worth 2 points. If it weren't because I was afraid of getting scolded by my father, I would have applied to come out earlier. 2 points, this was indeed an embarrassing result. It was no wonder that Yun Qinyan, who was a crazy person, would feel so depressed. Just when the atmosphere was awkward, suddenly, a wave of cheers came from that group of martial arts students. Young Master Chong is out. When he heard the voice of young Master Chong, Simon Xing could not help but raise his head to look. If he had guessed correctly, the young Master Chong, mentioned by these people, should be the young Marquis of the Redwood Royal City. He was also the youngest son of the current Redwood King. It was rumored that he had outstanding talent since he was young. Among the martial arts students of his age, he was far ahead and stood out. Before the exam, he was the most popular candidate to win this exam. Simon Xing had long been seen as a potential competitor by this young marquis. Now, when he saw him surrounded by a group of martial arts students, inwardly, he did not feel good. Yet, he thought, I wonder how this young marquis did this time? This young marquis had restored his original appearance. With a purple and gold crown on his head, he appeared to be full of style. The martial arts students on both sides surrounded him like stars surrounding the moon. Their presence had increased. Young Master Chong, this time, your results should be good, right? One of the martial arts students that went up asked flatteringly. One of the martial arts students next to that young marquis scolded with a smile. Nonsense, this time, young Master Chong had completed 2 crossings and got more than 200 points. The individual crown should belong to young Master Chong. More than 200 points? Tisk tsk, so powerful. For sure, he will not lose the championship. Haha. Although my individual result is average, it's also an honorable thing for our Prince Akaji to win first place among the 4 territories. Instantly, Simon Xing's good mood became gloomy. Initially, he still held a little bit of extravagant hope and wanted to fight for first place. Although he knew that he did not have much hope, he still received a huge blow when he heard that he had such good results. He could not help but look at Qin Wushuang. However, he saw Qin Wushuang's calm smile. Instantly, Simon Xing's heart moved. From his past experience, Qin Wushuang's smile was another interpretation of his confidence. Could it be, it's on the shelf? The first day's monthly votes are very important, please. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 99. Observing Qin Wushuang's expression was also one of Yun Qingyan's hobbies. Although her personal results were terrible to the extreme, it did not stop her from yearning for the team's honor. Especially to the martial arts students from River County, she had a narrow-minded sense of honor for her hometown. Especially when she saw others showing off their sense of superiority with their heads held high, her unbalanced mentality had become even more overflowing. However, when her gaze stopped on Qin Wushuang's face, instantly, her cloudy mood had turned into a sunny one. Qin Wushuang, your result this time must not be bad, right? How about it, did you get 300 points? Yun Qingyan deliberately raised her voice and asked exaggeratedly. 300 points, she had shouted it out while gritting her teeth. In fact, she also felt that 300 points was too difficult. Theoretically, it was impossible to get it. To get 300 points, you must cross at least 3 areas to guarantee 300 points. Indeed, as soon as she said these words, even De Shiyang could not help but shake his head secretly. He thought that this Yun Qingyan was indeed high profile. Why would she need to compete with the offspring of the royal family? In fact, many of the surrounding martial arts students were somewhat whispering when they saw the exaggerated performance of those people next to young Master Chong. After all, most of the people here did not have a good result in the exam. If you suddenly had a super good result and deliberately showed off in front of others, it would feel like you were deliberately slapping them in the face. Even if you were an offspring of the royal family, it would still make people feel annoyed. Thus, Yun Qingyan's question in a fit of pique had made most of the martial arts students in Prince Akaji secretly applaud. Although everyone felt that 300 points was a fool's dream, it was still necessary to strike down some people's arrogance. Qin Wushuang smiled bitterly. Inwardly, he thought that this Missy Yun could not rest for even a moment. If she did not stir up some trouble, she would feel uncomfortable. Although Simon Xing also wanted to add oil to the fire, he knew how to judge the situation. He knew what young Master Chong meant to Prince Akaji. He smiled and did not say anything. Why aren't you saying anything? Yun Qinyan asked with her eyes wide open. What do you want me to say? Qin Wushuang felt very helpless. The results and whatnot are based on the official announcement. Don't worry. Yun Qinyan had long forgotten that her grades were bad. She giggled and said, because my grades are too bad, so I want to share your good grades. Who asked us to be from the same hometown? Apparently, those martial arts students from the Redwood Royal City had understood the meaning behind Yun Qingyan's words. All of them glared at her from the corner of their eyes. Obviously, he wanted to know who had the guts to be so insensible at this time and disturb their mood. For your information, this time, the Redwood King attached great importance to his youngest son's exam. He desperately wanted to use this exam to push out his youngest son. Therefore, he naturally wouldn't let go of any opportunity to build momentum for his youngest son. Apparently, the Redwood King had instructed this group of martial arts students to flatter and create momentum. Unexpectedly, Yun Qinyan, such a crazy person, had appeared. The young prince glanced at them indifferently but didn't say anything. On the other hand, those martial arts students next to him glared angrily as if they were going to cause trouble at any moment. Before the exam, everyone had worked hard for Prince Akaji. Thus, it was inappropriate for them to be in a deadlock. Now that the exam had ended and the grades had been set, the tolerance between each other had naturally decreased. Just when the atmosphere was in a deadlock, suddenly, all the martial arts students felt waves of strong qi. At this time, the 4 great honored warriors from the Zhen Wu holy place of the Baiyu country appeared together. It was rare for these 4 to appear at the same time in the Baiyu country. As soon as they appeared, their temperament had instantly suppressed the noisy scene. Almost instantly, all the martial arts students closed their mouths and swallowed back the words that were about to come out of their mouth. The 4 great honored warriors. From the eyes of the martial arts students, a strong sense of worship and respect emerged. Apparently, in their hearts, the Zhen Wu holy place was already unreachable, and the 4 great honored warriors were the peak of the peak. They could only respect and worship them. Before the 4 great honored warriors had spoken a word, they only glanced around lightly. Instantly, almost 2,000 martial arts students at the scene felt as if they were carrying 1,000 pounds of weight. The purple-robed great honored warrior pressed his arm and smiled. Everyone, in this 1 month of exam, some people had sacrificed their lives. However, some people are destined to rise to fame and achieve meteoric success. Now, the grades have been registered. The grades of each exam site are in place. However, for the statistics and announcement, we will need to wait until tomorrow. Tonight, everyone will camp here. Tomorrow morning, the results will be announced. Tomorrow? They still needed to wait until tomorrow? On the face of the martial arts students, disappointment had clearly emerged. After a month of hard work and suffering, everyone wanted to know the final result. Everyone wanted to know the ranking and whether they could pass the exam. After all, among all these martial arts students, only 30 people from each territory could pass the exam. In total, there were only 120 people. Everyone wanted to know whether they could pass or not when thousands of soldiers squeezed onto that single-plank bridge. After a day and a night of waiting, it was too torturous. However, everyone also understood that the regions and origins of the martial arts students from these exam sites had been messed up. Indeed, it would take time to reorganize the original records, and the ranking would take even more time. Besides, after the results of the 4 territories had come out, they still needed to pick the top 30 from each territory to compete against each other. Indeed, all the procedures would take time. It could be said that the Zhen Wu Holy Place had already tried their best to get the results out tomorrow. The purple-robed great honored warrior could also understand the feelings of the martial arts students as he smiled. I understand your urgent feelings. Now, I cannot tell you who had a better result. However, I must admit that in this exam, your performance had exceeded my expectations. Especially the performance of the top few, it was brilliant. Of course, this was not the biggest surprise. The biggest surprise was that in this exam, a lot of dark horses had appeared. These dark horses did not come from a high background, yet their results made people happy. Haha, that's all I will say. During this period of time, everyone should take a good rest. When Qin Wushuang heard the purple-robed great honored warrior's words, inwardly, he laughed. No wonder he was the great honored warrior, an old fox. It would have been better if he had not spoken these words. Now that he had spoken, it made people's hearts itch even harder to scratch. In just a few words, he had left a lot of places to let people's imagination run wild. It would be strange if he did not whet their appetite. Indeed, as expected, when these martial arts students heard these suggestive words, they instantly started to make guesses. Hearing the great honored warrior's words, the overall result of this exam was good. It seemed that this time, the competition among the top few was also fierce. Or else, why would the great honored warrior emphasize the performance of those top few? Without a doubt, those top few were the offspring of the royal families or the feudal lords from the 4 royal territories. For normal martial arts students, they were slightly behind in all aspects. However, the great honored warrior had specifically mentioned the dark horses. This made many martial arts students let their imagination run wild. Especially those who did not come from a high background but had a good result this time, they all guessed. Could I be one of the dark horses mentioned by the great honored warrior? Inside a giant tent, each of the people in charge of the Zhen Wu Holy Place was working hard. They had to calculate the results of the trial within 1 day and 1 night. Besides the few hundred martial arts students who had already lost their lives, the remaining 2,000 martial arts students must first put their scores back into the files of their respective territories. Then, they would be ranked within their territories. They would select the top 30 from their respective territories to advance. Then, they would take out the top 30 from the 4 territories and accumulate the total score of these top 30. Then, they would determine the first place of the group and the top 10 of the territory that had obtained the first place. The last step was to determine the final ranking of the individual result. With the 4 honored warriors overseeing the work, they could not afford to slack off. Great honored warrior, I didn't expect that this time, the individual number 1 was an offspring of the wealthy class, a lower aristocrat. With the appearance of this dark horse, wouldn't it be a slap to the faces of the 4 royal families? The red-haired honored warrior sighed with emotion. This exam is fair and open. Before the exam, we kept it a secret. No one could take advantage of the loopholes. The appearance of a dark horse could only mean that he has outstanding strength. The purple-robed great honored warrior pointed to the report. Look at his points. He is far ahead of the 2nd place. From the 2nd to the 5th place, without exception, they are all offspring of the royal families. However, the 2nd place only has 236 points. This proves that his strength has far surpassed his peers. The other 3 honored warriors all nodded. Especially that charming 4th honored warrior, her starry eyes flashed. Even if the 4 royal families feel uncomfortable, they should know the significance of this exam. I believe that they would not dare to raise any doubts about the exam. It's not their turn to question the actions of the Zhen Wu Holy Place. The purple-robed great honored warrior's tone carried a wave of dominance. He did not even consider the royal families. He only wanted a good result from this exam. Now, the good result he had hoped for had appeared. Of course, he would not allow anyone to come out and destroy this situation. Even if it was the royal family, he would not allow it. Great honored warrior, all the results of the martial arts students have been filed in their respective territories. The top 30 are also arranged. Should we announce it in advance? A related person walked over to ask for instructions. The great honored warrior glanced outside and saw that it was already midnight. Anyways, announce it tomorrow morning. Announce the other 3 territories first. Then, announce the territory with the number 1 team. Remember, you must divide them into different levels. Yes. Each of the 4 honored warriors had a copy of the ranking. They were all shocked by the result of Qin Wushuang at the top of the list. Great honored warrior, unless the other subordinate countries also have demonic students, or else, our Baiyu will for sure be in the limelight. This Qin Wushuang is too monstrous, ha ha ha. Now, whenever the red-haired honored warrior saw the name of Qin Wushuang, he wanted to laugh from the bottom of his heart. 600 points. Logically speaking, even a high-grade subordinate country shouldn't have such a monstrous result. Don't worry, in less than 3 days, all the exam results will be gathered together. By that time, you will understand the overall situation. Yes, then what about the reward? Sooner rather than later. The great honored warrior said with a determined tone, "Tomorrow, I will return to the Martial Saint Mountain and pay a visit to the Martial Saint. I will ask him to urge the Emperor to honor the reward as soon as possible. Once this kid's result gets out, for sure, countless people with ulterior motives will come to poach him. We must guard against this matter." Great honored warrior is right. The other 3 honored warriors all nodded. At dawn, under the expectation of all the martial arts students, it finally arrived slowly. As one of the emissaries from the Zhen Wu holy place walked out from the tent, a wave of noise emerged from all around. Everyone knew that the results had come out. The moment that would decide their fate had finally arrived. Readers, don't go away, there will be a new chapter in 2 minutes. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 100. When he saw the martial arts students rushing over like a swarm of bees, that representative waved the list in his hand and shouted, "Don't rush over. These are the exam results of Taiyuan of Goguryeo. Only the top 30 have made it. For those who did not make it, you will know when you compare your result. Each of you know your own results, right?" Each martial arts student knew how many jade plates they had taken and how many points they had collected. When they heard that Taiyuan of Goguryeo was the first to rise, the martial arts students from the other 3 territories showed a face of disappointment and stepped back. How come Taiyuan of Goguryeo is the first to rise? The martial arts students from the other 3 territories all guessed and had a bad feeling. Could it be Taiyuan of Goguryeo is the number 1 team among the 4 royal territories? No way. Usually, Taiyuan of Goguryeo is not that outstanding. They are incomparable to our Purple Flame territory. Among the 4 territories, only Prince Akaji can compete with us. What Taiyuan of Goguryeo, if they are number 1, I will not accept it. Haha, don't worry. The Zhen Wu holy place did not say that Taiyuan of Goguryeo is number 1. Although it was Taiyuan of Goguryeo's list, many martial arts students from the other territories still walked over. They wanted to see how the top 30 from Taiyuan of Goguryeo were ranked. With a reference, they would feel more confident. Qin Wushuang and De Shiyang did not go to join in the fun. With Yun Qinyan in River County, all the gossip in the world could not escape their ears. Yun Qinyan had already rushed over like a wisp of smoke. Although her own grades were not good, she cared a lot about the group's honor. Although Simon Xing also wanted to join in the fun, in the end, he could not bring himself to do it. After all, he was an offspring of a feudal lord. He could not give people the impression that he could not keep his cool. Fortunately, he had his lackeys to run errands for him. After a moment, a martial arts student from South Cloud City ran over and said with excitement, "Young Master Xing, the highest score from Taiyuan of Goguryeo is 214 points. The second place only has 148 points, 4 points less than you, young Master Xing." When Simon Xing heard this, his nervousness was relieved. Although the person in first place was ahead of him by quite a few points, he did not feel dejected. This was because the children of the royal family of Taiyuan of Goguryeo definitely had some advantages. But his result was better than the second place of Taiyuan of Goguryeo, which made him very satisfied. At this time, Yun Qinyan also jogged over happily with a mischievous smile on her face. "I thought the first one to come out was the team champion. Guess what?" "What is it?" "Haha, the first one to come out was the last one. The 4 royal families ranked last." While Yun Qinyan laughed, she said, 4 martial arts students from Taiyuan of Goguryeo crossed over. One of the martial arts students had crossed the zone twice. In the end, among the 30 spots, the one with the lowest score only had 40 points. Only 40 points. One of the martial arts students from South Cloud City beamed with joy. "Then I have 56 points, so I have a high chance to pass?" Another martial arts student from South Cloud City only had 30 points. He knew that he had no chance to pass. Inwardly, he said with jealousy, "That is Taiyuan of Goguryeo. They are the last one. For sure our Prince Akaji will rank first. If you do not reach 60 points, don't even think about it." "Haha, young Master Da, you are jealous. Naked jealousy. Pa, me jealous of you? Young Master Xing has 152 points. Even if I am jealous, I need to pick someone." That martial arts student was still reluctant to admit his mistake. Just when these two were chattering, Yun Qinyan walked next to Qin Wushuang. She rolled her eyes at Qin Wushuang and pretended to be angry. "Qin Wushuang, just how many points did you get, tell me honestly?" In fact, De Shiyang was also curious about this point. From his estimation of Qin Wushuang, it would not be low. However, he still had some doubts as to whether he could surpass the royal children. Qin Wushuang knew that Yun Qinyan was curious, yet he did not want to satisfy her. This girl was too talkative. Once she revealed it, in less than 15 minutes, most likely everyone would know. Before the results came out, Qin Wushuang did not want to be treated as a braggart. 600 points, that was indeed a shocking number. Indeed, among the martial arts students of Taiyuan of Goguryeo, some were happy and some were sad. Those who had passed were overjoyed, and those who did not had different expressions. Some had red eyes, some were crying silently, some were holding their heads in sadness, and some were cursing their bad luck. Of course, the host of the Zhen Wu holy place would not let everyone wait for too long. In a moment, another emissary walked out. This time, he brought out another list. "Martial arts students of Prince Lanyue, your results are out. As usual, only the top 30 and their corresponding results will be shown. For the rest of the martial arts students who did not pass, check the list. If there are any mistakes, contact the emissaries of the holy place." Prince Lanyue's martial arts students rushed over when they heard these words. On the other hand, those high-scoring martial arts students of Prince Lanyue felt a wave of disappointment. To these high-scoring martial arts students, they did not have to worry about passing the exam. They cared more about whether they could get first place in the group competition. According to the rules of the Zhen Wu holy place, apparently they would release the results from the bottom to the top. In other words, the earlier the list was released, the lower the group ranking would be. Thus, when the second emissary came out, the high-scoring martial arts students of the other 3 territories did not want their territory to be called. However, strength represented everything. Indeed, Taiyuan of Goguryeo and Prince Lanyue were relatively weaker among the 4 royal territories, and Prince Akagi and the Purple Flame territory were relatively stronger. This was the usual pattern of the 4 royal territories in Baiyu country. It was also fully reflected in the exam result. Yun Qinyan still acted as the mouthpiece for everyone. 4 of Prince Lanyue's martial arts students had also received the qualification to cross territory. At the same time, one of them had crossed twice. However, their highest score was 4 points higher than Taiyuan of Goguryeo. They had reached 218 points. The second place had also reached 156 points. They had surpassed Simon Xing's 152 points. Inwardly, Simon Xing felt somewhat uncomfortable when he heard this result. However, after a moment, he felt relieved. In Baiyu country, there were still some people who were stronger than the Shi-men feudal lords. Currently, the highest score is 218 points. That martial arts student with the highest score from Taiyuan of Goguryeo has already lost the qualification to compete for first place. Yes, but I feel that Prince Lanyue's highest score will not make it. Yesterday, didn't that Prince Akagi also say that he had more than 200 points? I wonder how many points he had? Theoretically, it would not be more than 240. Or else, for sure, he would cross again. When Yun Qinyan calculated other people's scores, she was very meticulous. As the results kept coming out, everyone's mood had clearly risen. Earlier, there were still some discordant voices within Prince Akagi. Now, it had been completely covered up as if they had reached a mutual understanding against a common enemy. The most crucial climax was about to arrive. Would Prince Akagi's team or the Purple Flame Territories team be number 1? The next ranking list would reveal the answer. The list that came out would be number 2. And the list that did not come out would be number 1. Apparently, the martial arts students from the Purple Flame Territory had also felt this point. Everyone stood in formation and waited for the third appearance of the emissary from the Zhen Wu holy place. With this appearance, the truth would come to light as to who would be number 1 in the team. Apparently, the martial arts students from the other 2 territories had also felt this hostile atmosphere. They also started to pay attention, although they had already missed the team championship by a hair's breadth. However, apparently, everyone wanted to know who was the strongest after all these years of competition between the 4 great royal territories. This trial was a very good touchstone. It could settle a lot of disputes. It's out. Suddenly, one of the martial arts students with sharp eyes shouted. Instantly, this shout had grabbed the fragile hearts of countless martial arts students. All eyes focused on that emissary at the same time. To put it more precisely, they focused on the ranking list in his hand. This was a ranking list that would determine the winner and loser. Apparently, people from the Zhen Wu holy place were good at keeping people in suspense and stirring up the atmosphere. He stood on the high platform and smiled. However, he was not in a hurry to speak. He glanced around and said with a smile, "Everyone must be concerned about the ranking list in my hand, right?" "Yes." The response was earth-shattering. "Then, you must know which territory is number 1 when this ranking list comes out, right?" "Yes." "Okay." That emissary waved his arm and laughed leisurely. He glanced at the Purple Flame Royal Territory and then at the Redwood Royal Territory. The curiosity of these 2 martial arts students had been completely aroused. They all held their breath and waited for him to announce the answer. "Everyone, the ranking list in my hand. It's the qualifying list for the Purple Flame Territory." That emissary raised his arm and said loudly, "Roar." Resounding, boiling, and joyful cheers came from Prince Akagi. A low, disappointed, and depressed sigh came from the Purple Flame Territory. Such result had instantly caused the martial arts students from both places to fall into a state of ice and fire. Even someone as calm as Qin Wushuang could not help but be infected by this fervent atmosphere. This was the sense of collective honor. Although it sounded a little childish, at least, this hot-bloodedness, this sense of belonging, and this sense of community had surpassed his environment in his former world. Of course, it made him feel emotional. You could say that the people in this world liked killing, violence, and conflict. However, this was their law of survival. No one could change it with their own power. However, they also had their good points. They recognized their family, their homeland, and their territory. If this continued, they would recognize the entire country when facing foreign countries. To a country, this sense of belonging and recognition was extremely precious. Indeed, the number 1 of the Purple Flame territory had surpassed the highest score of the previous 3 territories. It had reached 226 points. It was a total of 8 points higher than Prince Lanyue's highest score. Prince Akaji's side boiled with excitement. Double happiness had come at the same time. Prince Akaji already had the number 1 spot in the group. And for Prince Akaji's young Master Chong, people around him had already spread the news that he had 236 points. He had surpassed the highest score of the previous 3 territories. Without a doubt, the individual number 1 spot belonged to the young master. Those martial arts students around the young master had already started to celebrate in advance. Double happiness, for sure, it was double happiness. Only Yun Qinyan was still mumbling something as if she was not convinced. Suddenly, she looked at Qin Wushuang. However, she still saw a calm and smiling face. It was as if everything before her had nothing to do with him. Today, 3 chapters have been updated. If nothing unexpected happens, there will be a 4th. If the brothers' monthly votes are strong enough. Li Tian decided to fight for a 5th update. Is the firepower fierce enough? To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 101. Although the results of the Redwood Royal City had not been announced, the suspense of the team's number 1 had already been settled. Now, the only suspense was who would be number 1 in this exam. Who would soar to the sky in this exam and become a king or marquis. Although those martial arts students from the Redwood Royal City were certain that their young prince had locked onto the number 1 spot. However, the other 3 territories did not want to think this way. Without seeing the final result, who could guarantee that Prince Akaji's young Master Chong would be stronger than the one with the highest score from the Purple Flame territory? Of course, regarding Prince Akaji's number 1 spot, no one thought of anyone else. It was as if it was natural for the offspring of the royal family to obtain the number 1 spot in their territory. Just when Yun Qinyan was about to ask again, she suddenly saw the emissary from the Zhen Wu holy place walk out from the tent. She did not care about Qin Wushuang and De Shiyang and ran over like a wisp of smoke. Young Master Xing, it's our Redwood Royal City's turn. Next to Simon Xing, a group of martial arts students from South Cloud State City whispered. Those martial arts students who had the hope of advancing all rushed over with their blood boiling. Let's go and take a look? De Shiyang called out to Qin Wushuang. He knew that he would not have any problems passing. However, the problem was where he would place. From the bottom of his heart, he hoped to place in the top 10. However, after seeing everyone's performance this time, De Shiming also did not feel confident. Qin Wushuang followed in the crowd and did not try to show off. That emissary from the Zhen Wu holy place held a list and smiled. Everyone, I believe that everyone is waiting for the final suspense, right? Don't rush, the honored warriors are about to come out. The great honored warrior still has something to say. While he was talking, the martial arts students had all quieted down. It was because each of them saw that the 4 honored warriors had walked out from the tent. Especially the purple-robed great honored warrior. His serious face was now filled with a joyful smile. Boys, thank you for your wonderful performance. For the result of this exam, the Zhen Wu holy place only has one word: satisfaction. The purple-robed great honored warrior waved his long robe and suppressed the scene. Then, he said, "Among you guys, is there anyone who has doubts about the result? No. Does anyone have any doubts about the fairness of this trial? No. From the perspective of the organization, this trial had indeed reached an impeccable stage. Even if there were some small conflicts between martial arts students, it would not affect the overall situation. At least, in this martial arts student exam, there was no favor plate, no identity plate. Everyone entering the exam site was 100% fair." The purple-robed great senior nodded with satisfaction. "Good, seeing everyone's approval, this old man is very pleased. When the final results are out, I believe no one will have any doubts, right?" "No." "Good. Just like I said before. In this trial, the top few had all performed outstandingly. The competition was intense. However, the biggest surprise of this trial was that there were many dark horses. Prince Akagi, in particular, has given us venerables a pleasant surprise." As soon as he said these words, Prince Akagi's martial arts students all started to breathe rapidly. On the other hand, those martial arts students with higher status felt somewhat uneasy. The biggest surprise was the dark horse? Could it be that there were quite a few dark horses among the qualifiers this time? In total, Prince Akagi had 5 martial arts students who had crossed. However, there were 2 other martial arts students who had reached the qualification to cross, but did not apply. Their results were also excellent. Both of them had made it into the top 10. As soon as De Shiyang heard these words, the giant stone hanging high in his heart had instantly returned to its original position. The great honored warrior's last words must have been about him, De Shi Ming. Because of the brilliant performance of these martial arts students, Prince Akagi had greatly surpassed the other 3 leaders. Compared to the other 3 leaders, Prince Akagi had more than one martial arts student who had crossed twice. Instead, there were 2 martial arts students who had crossed twice. This is an excellent result. The great honored warrior's tone was full of joy and encouragement. 2. Prince Akagi's martial arts students were boiling with excitement. Indeed, it was an excellent result. At least on this point, Prince Akagi was already ahead of the other 3 leaders. A trace of doubt emerged on the handsome face of that little prince with the purple gold crown on his head. There was another martial arts student who had crossed twice? Young Master Chong, don't worry, so what if he had crossed twice? With your results, you're close to crossing regions 3 times. For sure, he could not compare to you. That's right, there is no doubt that he will win the championship. When the great honored warrior saw that everyone's expectation had reached a critical point, he waved his hand and shouted, "Open the list!" The list was opened and hung at the most eye-catching position on the stage. Almost everyone's eyes were focused on the top row at the first moment. A name was hanging at the top, Qin Wushuang. The score at the end was even more shocking. 600 points. This was a score that had instantly petrified all the martial arts students. Almost everyone's expression froze on their face when they saw this scene. Only after being stunned for a long while did someone react. 600 points? Are you kidding me? This is not a score that a human should have. Qin Wushuang Yun Qinyan, who was usually eloquent, realized that her tongue had become stiff. Besides being dumbfounded, she could not utter a single word. This is too exaggerated, 600 points. Among the waves of praises, it was filled with surprise, envy, and doubt. In the end, all the emotions had turned into one word, admiration. Who was Qin Wushuang? Everyone searched with their eyes. The way those martial arts students from South Cloud State looked at Qin Wushuang was no longer as unfriendly as when they were at South Cloud City. It was completely replaced by admiration. Those martial arts students from Redwood Royal City were also dumbstruck. They never thought that the little prince who had gotten 236 points would lose the individual championship. What was even more unexpected was that he would actually lose in such a shocking manner. A layer of frost also covered the handsome face of that little prince. With an ashen face, it was apparent that he could not accept the reality before him. Ever since the highest score from the top 3 had come out, he had completely let go of his worries. He also thought that this time, the individual championship would be his. Who would have thought that a monster would appear out of nowhere and snatch away his personal laurels in one fell swoop? Qin Wushuang for this name, Prince Akagi, who was well informed, had heard of it. However, as a member of the royal family, he had never been interested in the things that happened in the lower counties. While De Shiyang was shocked, he had already found his position on the list. 7th place. It was a place that he could be proud of. Below him, there were a few feudal lord offspring from other states. 1st place, Qin Wushuang, 600 points. 2nd place, He Yuchong, 236 points. 3rd place, Simon Xing, 152 points. 4th place, Tong Yen, 140 points. 7th place, De Shiyang, 86 points. The lower the ranking, the more people had the same number of points. Prince Akagi's lowest score had far surpassed the other 3. It was as high as 60 points. Those martial arts students with more than 50 points sighed and complained about being born at the wrong time. If they were placed in other territories, their results would be enough to qualify. However, if they were placed in Prince Akagi, they would fall behind. The purple-robed great honored warrior pressed down with his palm and motioned everyone to quiet down. Everyone, now we only lack the individual ranking. The basic rule is that the top 10 in the group will be rewarded, and the top 10 in the individual will also be rewarded. If all the rewards overlap, it will be accumulated. The results will take effect. The related rewards will also be delivered within a month. The great honored warrior swept across the entire scene with his tyrannical gaze. Suddenly, his tone turned harsh. This exam is fair and open. If anyone wants to seek revenge because they are not satisfied with the results, the Zhen Wu holy place will not forgive them. You all think about it. Overall, you must remember that the Zhen Wu holy place places great importance on this exam. The related results will not take effect within the Bayou country. Whoever has objections, you can go to the Martial Saint Mountain to reason with him. Go to the Martial Saint Mountain to reason with him? The martial arts students did not know whether to laugh or cry. Unless someone was tired of living, or else, before the authority of the Zhen Wu holy place, it would be best to obey obediently. What's more, there really weren't any loopholes in this trial. Everyone was more curious about the identity of this Qin Wushuang. He had appeared out of nowhere without any warning. Wasn't this dark horse too shocking? Okay, all the martial arts students who made it will stay. Those who did not make it will be led by the person in charge of each territory. You will return to your home. Along the way, you are not allowed to disturb the people and cause trouble. If anyone brings the exam content to reality, the Zhen Wu holy place will punish you severely. He waved his sleeve and announced the disbandment. Yun Qinyan was very depressed. She said heartlessly, "Disbanded just like that? We have traveled so far, and now we are disbanding? Missy Yun, you have fallen behind. Plus, the journey is long, how can you get rid of the loneliness? Why don't we travel together? Get lost." When Yun Qinyan thought about the 3 people who had come from River County and she was the only one who had gone home, she felt extremely depressed. Thus, she did not hesitate to swear when she encountered such a boring conversation. Let's just go home. Haha, the number 1 individual and the best team contributor are all from River County. I will be responsible for bringing this great news to the people of River County. It's also a great thing. Hey, you two, do you have any message for me? Yun Qinyan walked before Qin Wushuang and De Shiming and asked with good intentions. Have a safe trip, Qin Wushuang said with a smile. De Shiyang nodded. I also want to say the same thing, have a safe trip. Yun Qinyan looked at these two people from the same hometown. Regardless of how thick-skinned she was, she could not help but feel somewhat disappointed and frustrated. Perhaps, after this farewell, the gap between them would be completely widened. From then on, they would no longer be on the same level. All qualified martial arts students, gather at your territories. The purple-robed great honored warrior shouted. Depart immediately and head to the Martial Saint Mountain. Meet the Martial Saint. Meet the Martial Saint? Instantly, the martial arts students burst into an uproar. It was a great honor. For your information, many aristocrats in the Bayou country wanted to meet the Martial Saint but could not. Even if the emperor wanted to meet the Martial Saint, he would have to choose a good day to do so. And now, such an honor had landed on their heads. Qin Wushuang did not feel overwhelmed by the honor like everyone else. His only question was, what was the strength of that martial saint? Thank you for your subscription support. Now, the subscription had reached Li Tian's goal. Thus, regardless of the situation tomorrow, I will update the 5th chapter. Today, I will update the 4th chapter. If the monthly votes can reach 200 votes before midnight, Li Tian will not go back on his words and will update the 5th chapter immediately. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com, support the author, support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.